Hello everyone and welcome to the sunshine. Welcome to the Adriatic coast. Welcome to round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge. We are live from Misano. What a fantastic place this is with a fantastic circuit and with weather conditions which are altogether beautiful. We are looking forward to the first race action of the weekend, which will be for our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am drivers. This is round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge. Welcome once again to Misano. There you can see the circuit in all its glory, racing in the late afternoon and into the evening as well here in Misano as round 2 of our calendar before we head off to Germany. It's Hockenheim, then it's Brno in the Czech Republic. Ahead of 2 dates in Spain when we go to Valencia and Barcelona right in the heart of summer. Ooh, phew, that'll be hot. Then Spa-Francorchamps, which probably won't be, in September, before the Finale Mondiale at Mugello in Tuscany, right at the end of October. So round 1 is done and dusted. Hello, Mr. Magpie. 1, 2, 3. Track temperature 30 degrees. Air temperature 18 degrees. Humidity around about 63%. There is a bit of a breeze blowing of 23 kilometers per hour at the moment. And there you can see just how busy it is down there on track. There's the driver going from P2 on the grid. It's Andreas Koenig, who had a torrid time of it in Monza and is hoping to improve here in Misano. Giacomo Altoe is the guy you can see there with the headphones on, who is the Emil Frey driver coach and Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli champion from last year. A welcome return to the Radici Automobili best lap driver, Andrea Levy, who we can see there. Andrea Levy going from P3 on the grid. His time, a 1:35.412, gave him P3 on the grid. And yeah, good to see Andrea Levy back. He missed Monza. Although he was there, he didn't have his racing car there. But he certainly does here today at Misano, this very challenging track of 4.236 kilometers. And lots of guests and spectators here to enjoy the race action. Here is Sven Schirmer then, the driver from Penske Sportswagen Hamburg, who will be going from P1. A 1:35.286 was a hugely impressive lap time, and Sven Schirmer put it P1. Now, he was on the podium in race 2 in Monza. Well, from the pole position start, he'll be hoping to take his first P1 of the season. He raced in the 488 Challenge last year and is racing in the 296 Challenge this year in the Copa Shell Am class. Let's take a look at what happened at round 1 then in Monza. The Temple of Speed awaited our drivers as the lights went out and we were ready to race. Of course, a hugely fast track. Saw a number of drivers fall by the wayside as the 296 cars and the drivers were tested to their absolute limits. Some finding the track limits and finding the gravel beds. Others, of course, were victorious, including Boris Gideon, who made it 2 out of 2. In terms of our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli but Copa Shell Am drivers. So he'd put the first race win in the books, and then it came to race 2 for the Copa Shell Am drivers. Once again, many taking and shortcutting the chicane right at the start of the race. Paolo Scudieri was looking lively. However, Paolo Scudieri then diving to the inside with a brilliant overtake. And that was on the car of Alexei Komarov. For Boris Gideon, though, it would be 2 out of 2. What a start to the season for Boris Gideon on the top step of the podium at Monza. Will he be able to replicate that success here in Misano? Alongside me is Nico Spalek. Nico, Boris has not qualified quite as well as he did in Monza. This is a very different track to the track at Monza.
This is a different track. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a different circuit, and obviously this is the first time that the 296 Challenge is here in Misano. So that means all the teams have to collect data, so it's a fresh start for everybody, and that plays a part. And in fairness, Boris Gideon qualified P4, so it's not all gloom,
no.
But it is not the lofty standard he set himself in Monza.
So there you can see just how busy it is down there on the grid. There's the Paolo Scudieri car. Now all non-essential personnel are being ushered off the grid now before the pre-race festivities, well, formalities I should say, will get underway. That's a great shot as we go inside the car, the Samocar car of Paolo Scudieri. Good qualifying from Paolo, putting the car P8. And from the fourth row of the grid, he's a driver that you cannot bet against, that's for sure. The Copichel AM drivers then, there are some 15 of them that take to this extraordinary track here in Misano for race 1. There is Pino Frascaro, driver of the number 140 car. Now, Pino last year raced in the 488 Challenge. This year, he's in the 296 Challenge car and has taken to the car really, really well and has qualified well too, has Pino Frascaro. He's going from P7 on the grid. Well done to him. So as you can see, they are gradually making their way off the track, including the tyre trolleys, which ordinarily would contain the wet weather tyres, just in case. Hopefully not going to be necessary today, Nico.
No, there is a chance we will need them tomorrow, but for today it's certainly, as you can see, the sky is blue and no chance of rain because we're not at the Nürburgring.
You can just see the Adriatic then from that shot in the distance. And there you can see all the cars on the grid. And that new building that's been built since the last time I came to the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, to the right-hand side of the track there that you can see. So there are 16 turns, 6 of them left, 10 of them are right-handers here. It's about an hour and a half from Bologna, maybe 2.25 hours from Florence and Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, a real test for our Ferrari Challenge drivers. And let's join a track walk with Andreas Koenig right now.
Here we go, we start the track walk here in Misano. It will be quite a long track walk because it's 4 kilometers and something, so...
And the sun is going.
Okay mate, so here we are approaching T4. Right here, this will be the braking reference for us. Hard braking at the beginning, high peak, and then we start to bleed off the brake, starting to turn into the corner.
Into the blue?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There is a lot of grip, look. The shoes are sticking, so
yeah, it's crazy.
Tomorrow you can push even more.
Oh, I'll try my best.
So we are approaching now T9 and 10, which is called Tramonto. Do you know what is Tramonto in Italian?
No, tell me.
Tramonto is sunset. We need to brake as straight as possible with 2 wheels on the curb.
But not into the blue, huh?
Not fully on the curb, exactly. We open the line to be able to get the rotation of the car.
And a good angle.
At a good angle,
yeah.
exactly. And then we have to try to aim for the blue to open up the angle of the exit of the corner. And you see how long is the straight here? The more speed we get out of the corner, the better it is.
Thank you to Giacomo Altoe, Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli champion from last year, with his driver from Ferrari Racing, and that was Andreas Koenig. So they gave us the track walk of this Misano World Circuit, then 4.236 kilometers, 16 turns, 6 of them are left and 10 of them are right-handers. And it's a very different circuit to that we experienced at the opening round and we just saw the highlights of, and that was the Temple of Speed. This is altogether more technical. Stand by! The race start is about to get underway then, and right on cue, the safety car leads the cars away. And the Richard Mille safety car then will allow the cars to commence their formation lap. Always a rolling start, of course, in the Ferrari Challenge. We'll bring you the grid in full from back to front. and let you know who is going from where. 30 minutes plus 1 lap for the first race of our first day of race action here. Louis Peruskia then, who races here in Europe, 1:39.656, and he went from P15. Then it's Alvaro Ramos and Guy Favet on the next row of the grid. Then we find Fritz Muller and Germana Toniela, P12 and P11. P10 for Shintaro Akatsu. Alexei Komarov goes from P9 on the grid. Paolo Scudieri and Pino Frascaro occupy the 4th row of the grid, P8 and P7. Charles Chan and Henrik Kamstrup, they are P6 and P5. It's Boris Gideon, 2-time winner at Monza, and Andrea Levy going from row 2 of the grid. However, Andreas Koenig, who we just saw with a track walk, and Sven Schirmer on the front row of the grid, and it is Andreas Koenig going from P2, Sven Schirmer going from P1. So it's going to be a very interesting race with 1 or 2 drivers out of position. Let's hear from our pole sitter.
I mean, at first I'm happy that I made it. It was a strong competition, at least with 2 or 3 other cars this morning. In the morning the track was a little bit cold, but it then got better, and yeah, finally I made it. I'm happy, and it's a long day today. We have another qualifying, and then in the evening there's the race, so I hope I can make it.
And that's where we are right now, the race then. He's being coached, of course, by Andrea Gagliardini, who knows a thing about the Ferrari Challenge or two and knows about how to motivate a racing driver. And he's done that with Sven Schirmer very well indeed, because the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver goes from pole position, Nico.
Absolutely. You said drivers out of position 1. I think to keep an eye on is Shintaro Akatsu in P10. He has shown incredible speed last year and at Monza, so he is one that you can think is looking to go forward early and often.
Let's see if that comes to fruition. The cars will line up side by side in grid formation behind the safety car. Now the rule is, with regards to the start, the cars have to drive through their grid boxes on the grid as if it were a standing start. They have to maintain their position. If not, the start gets looked at, and we have seen penalties awarded if you go out of your formation. So the drivers know that they have to get it pinpoint accurate through their grid boxes before the race gets underway. So with 1 turn left to do, the safety car peels off into the pit lane, and the cars round the final turn. Andreas Koenig will be champing at the bit. So too will Sven Schirmer. The drivers have to keep to their grid boxes, as I mentioned then, and keep in formation. Controlled speed before the lights go green. And we go racing here at Misano for the first time. And Sven Schirmer then, he maintains that P1 position. That pole position already looking pretty lively as Boris Gideon, as he tries to drive up the order. Guy Favet and Louis Peruskia absolutely side by side. Boris Gideon trying to get to the inside of Andrea Levy, as you can see there. Andrea Levy in the all-black car, and it's Boris Gideon in the car, the colours of which play the red and yellow. So Sven Schirmer from Andreas Koenig, Andrea Levy, Boris Gideon. Then it is Henrik Kamstrup, Paolo Scudieri, Charles Chan and Pino Frascaro. The order on the left-hand side of your screen. And already Andrea Levy beginning to take the pressure to Andreas Koenig, and Sven Schirmer rubbing his hands with invisible soap. He's able to escape up the road. Andreas Koenig having to try and attack and defend at the same time, which is always very difficult. Paolo Scudieri on a mission as well. He's running in P6. So the way the drivers are at the moment, the order is on the left-hand side of your screen. Cars sound absolutely awesome here, and as I said, a very technical track here where they take as much of the curb as they can, but just by word of a warning, during our qualifying sessions the track limits really played a part in how the qualifying went, and it's potential that they will play a part also in the race, as Charles Chan is chasing down Paolo Scudieri, and we put the first lap in the book and complete the first one in this Copa Shalam race 1 of 2 this weekend. Schirmer leading from Koenig, under pressure. Pino Frascaro from Alexei Komarov, and Shintaro Akatsu running in P10. There is Shintaro Akatsu just at the back of the Alexei Komarov car. A three-way fight going on there for P8. Shintaro taking a look at the outside too. Alexei Komarov. Pino Frascaro holding it all together at the moment. Let's get a replay of the start here. For my money, Nico, I think one of the cleanest starts as every driver did go through their grid boxes.
Yeah, it looked clean and obviously good to see everybody going through the first chicane without any skirmishes or any damage, so that's definitely good. In the race, you can see there, Sven Schirmer really held it together. There is a chance for the outside line for Andreas Koenig if he can be alongside, because then through the chicane it will become the inside, but Sven Schirmer defended it well and has stretched his legs a little bit, although now Andreas Koenig is getting closer as he shed Andrea Levy behind him.
You're absolutely right. What he's done, he's escaped the clutches of Andrea Levy. We already see the first track limits warning which has been issued to Charles Chan, who's currently running P7. But Sven Schirmer, all of a sudden, Nico, is under pressure now from Andreas Koenig from Emil Frey Racing. He gave us his insightful track walk earlier on with the Emil Frey driver coach, Giacomo Altoe. So where can Andreas Koenig, who is quicker than Sven Schirmer at the moment, try and place that car to unseat the driver that's running P1 at the moment? Fastest lap comes from Andreas Koenig. He's in a unfamiliar livery for Andreas Koenig this weekend. However, he and the car seem to be working very well together. Progress chart on the left-hand side of your screen. As you can see, Alvaro Ramos doing a very good job moving up 3 places. Paolo Scudieri has moved up 2 places since the start of the race, so a number of drivers making good progress. Progress is something that Andreas Koenig wants to make as he tries to keep on the shirt tails, if you will, of Sven Schirmer.
Yeah, absolutely, and Shintaro Katsu just overtook Alexei Komarov and Pino Frascaro. There is Pino Frascaro, who already, as Toniella goes through the inside, that was a good move. Germana Toniella on the inside. Can she make it stick? And I think she has done enough, or has she? Yeah, she has for the moment made that overtake. Shintaro Katsu moved past Alexei Komarov, and Pino Frascaro looked like a little bit of a cork in the bubble, but he's now falling into the clutches of the driver behind him, and that is now Tadali Ramos.
Thank you, Sven Schirmer, Andreas Koenig, 7/10 between the two of them. There is Guy Favre in the number 120 car. What a brilliant time he's having in the Ferrari Challenge, but he's got to really defend now from the car of Germana Toniella, who is right on his gearbox. There's Frascaro, there's Ramos, there's Guy Favre, there is Germana Toniella, Nana to her friends. Fritz Muller right behind them. Fritz Muller, of course, running down in P14 right now. It's a 5-way fight that's going on for P10 in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am race. We're live from Misano with lots of overtaking already and lots of track limits warnings being issued already that we can see on a timing screen. You will only see them on the main screen when they become penalty driving, and that's not beyond the realms of possibility. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Andrea Levy under pressure now. This is for P3, or it was for P3 as we look at the lead battle right now. Here it is. Let's pick up on this P3 battle. Andrea Levy under pressure from Boris Gideon. And Andrea Levy, Boris Gideon, and also trying to buy into that party and find himself with an invitation is Henrik Hamstra. Paolo Scudieri's not so far behind either. Pino Frascaro is, well, he's having to defend. But, again, Andreas Koenig now turns up the wick on Sven Schirmer. Good defensive driving from Sven Schirmer, who is metaphorically just making that car a little bit wider, but now Andreas Koenig is closer than he has been at all. You can see as we split the screen as the driver coach is talking to him, Giacomo Altoe. Andreas Koenig going to try and dive to the inside here. Is he going to be able to scrub the speed off Sven Schirmer? He's able to close the door, and in truth, I don't think Andreas was quite close enough to be able to make it stick. However, Sven Schirmer knows that he is under pressure now. Andrea Gagliardini will be advising him and saying how to place the car, how to defend this P1 position. But Nico, he's got to do it for another 23 minutes plus 1 lap. That's a big ask for any driver.
Yeah, absolutely. But we also know that you can't drive in the dirty area behind another car for 25 minutes. Well, at least we think so. We've seen drivers do it in spite of it seeming impossible, but it is a tough ask. It takes a lot out of the tires and the car.
The figures you can see are as the cars are accelerating, it's green, and the speed that they come to, and then they brake when the figures turn red, of course, and what gear they're running as well, as we try and max out the information that we're able to give you in our broadcast. Koba Shalam, race 1, you're looking at P1 and P2. Sven Schirmer, Andreas Koenig, just 4 tenths between those two drivers. And Boris Gideon still chasing down Andrea Levy for the P3 position. So the Radici Automobili best lap driver Andrea Levy, who's running in P3, and the Autohaus Ulrich driver Boris Gideon, who took 2 wins out of 2 starts at the Temple of Speed at Monza, when just a couple of weeks ago we opened the 2025 calendar of the Ferrari Challenge. So over the timing line again, and once again, just taking a look at the inside was Andreas Koenig. The gap now is negligible between P1 and P2, down to 2 and a bit tenths. Andreas Koenig is clearly quicker, but it's all very well being quicker than the car in front of you. You've got to find a way by. Just think that Boris Gideon may have got to the inside of Andrea Levy. Well, he certainly tried, he didn't. Andrea Levy holds on to that, and Henrik Kamstrup is getting ever closer. He's running P5 at the moment, but would like to join that little fight that's going on for the final podium place just in front of him. I think Andreas is being very clever here, and what he's doing is just dropping back from Sven Schirmer and allowing things to cool down a little bit before he has another attack on the Sven Schirmer car like now. Got to be decisive and committed when he goes for it. Evolution of the last 2 laps you can see in terms of speed and gap on the graphics at the bottom of your screen. This is Ferrari Challenge. This is Henrik Kamstrup, or was Henrik Kamstrup, the driver that is at the moment running P5. Boris Gideon, again, fighting very hard in trying to find a way past Andrea Levy, but Levy is doing a good job in defending that P3 position. Okay, is Koenig closer this time around? I don't think so. Sven Schirmer, pretty neat and tidy. This is the most obvious place, perhaps, for Andreas Koenig to have a go going into turn number 1. Past our flip-flop speed camera, you can see just how quick these fantastic 296 Challenge cars are in the Ferrari Challenge. Through the chicane, split the screen into the garages as well, so you can see just how intense it is, whether you're on the track. Now, a slight mistake there from Sven Schirmer, I believe, has allowed Andreas Koenig to come back at him. Now, Sven Schirmer had set the fastest lap and responded to the Koenig speed with that 1:36.273 on the last lap. But in that turn, I just think he was a bit wayward, and for a moment that allowed Andreas to get a bit closer. Whether he's able to hold on to that or not, I don't know. But Schirmer is obviously very, very aware of the fact that Andreas Koenig is calling. And just for the moment, the gap widens a little bit between P1 and P2. Once again, we have a number of drivers that are being warned about track limits, and Boris Gideon almost getting to the inside of Andrea Levy, but not quite. And almost is no good. It's got to be committed and done. And thus far, it hasn't been. And Boris probably would like to do that before he suffers too much pressure from Henrik Kamstrup, who's right behind him at the moment. Schirmer leading Andreas Koenig by just around half a second.
Yeah, and we see track limits becoming more and more of a topic. Andreas Koenig has picked up one, Andrea Levy has picked up one. The first few drivers are up into the second warning, and that is half distance to the first penalty, so it's something that the drivers will have to watch. But watch is what Sven Schirmer has to do about Andreas Koenig, because there you can see under braking, Koenig really, really edges closer. There are a few obvious overtaking spots on this circuit, but we've seen overtaking maneuvers tried and made stick at very unorthodox spots.
Yeah, sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Right, Koenig once again turns the heat up on the back of Sven Schirmer. And this three-way intertwined battle for P3 is really quite enjoyable as well. It's between Andrea Levy, who's running P3. It's Boris Gideon, who I remind you took 2 wins at Monza. And then it is Henrik Kamstrup in the 113 car, who got 1 podium, a P2 place in the race 1 at Monza. So Henrik knows how to pedal this 296 Challenge car. Boris Gideon undoubtedly does. I have to say, Boris, I felt, has not been as dominant in qualifying as we saw in Monza. And therefore, some tracks suit some drivers better than others. Quite clearly, Monza fitted him like the proverbial well-fitted glove. Misano, I'm not quite so sure, because his qualifying performance was not as dominant as I expected to see following his great performance in Monza. However, he's running in P4, which is certainly not shabby by any means. Oh, I love it. The speed of these 296 Challenge cars. There is Boris in 103. Fair play and credit to Andrea Levy, Nico, who, with his steadfast defending, has only, to my knowledge, made 1 track limit excursion. That's jolly good going, because he is really under pressure. But he's not let that pressure, A, lead him into making a mistake, or B, letting Andrea Levy through.
No, absolutely. And Andrea is in that position. He would certainly want to get up the road and try to get on terms with those two, especially once they start fighting. It will slow them down. But for the time being, he definitely has to focus 100% on defending. And that was close.
There was a slight mistake from Sven Schirmer there. He probably didn't get the trajectory out of that turn that he wanted, but I don't think Andreas was quite close enough to be able to take advantage of that. He has got better momentum, that's for sure. So it's Sven Schirmer, Andreas Koenig, P1 and P2. This is what we've showing you center screen right now, and enjoyable with a capital E at the moment. They're good, fair, respectful drivers, both of them. And they are about 5.2 seconds up the road of the battle that's going on for P3 at the moment. The first time penalty is about to be awarded for track limits, Nico. That's being fed to me in my headphones right now, and I think it's going to affect and impact the driver that's running P10 at the moment. You'll see it on screen once it is confirmed, and I think it's going to be for the car number 120, which is Guy Favet running in P10. We'll see when it gets confirmed, as if by magic. And there it is.
That is time penalty number 4, and that is effectively the last serious warning. It already affects the race results, but 4 more and the penalty will get more severe. So it's really already Guy Favet picks up number 5, so he really has to focus for the remainder of this race, which is the second half really, where the tires go off, so it arguably becomes more difficult to stay within the white lines. He really has to pay attention to that.
Giacomo Altoe, as we split the screen, you can see him live talking to Andreas Koenig, the driver that's running P2 at the moment. Giacomo Altoe just advising how Andreas should go about trying to unsettle Sven Schirmer from that P1 position. Pino Frascaro holding on to his position of P13 at the moment. And here is P1 and P2, Sven Schirmer and Andreas Koenig. Now, as Nico was saying, the time penalties for track limits excursions, you can take 3 track limits excursions. When it gets to 4, you get a time penalty of 5 seconds, but repeat offences means that you stand a chance of that time penalty increasing from 5 seconds to 10 or even beyond, depending upon how many track limits you get up to. And Guy Favet is up to 5 as now Boris Gideon again just turning it up on Andrea Levy. Andrea Levy really having to defend and metaphorically sticking his elbows out and making that 296 Challenge car a bit wider than really it is.
Yeah, and Henrik Kamstrup, as you can see, he dropped 4 seconds in that final sector. It'll bear watching whether he had a problem or just missed the gear or whatever, but certainly that means Boris Gideon can forget about his rear view mirrors. He can 100% focus forward, which arguably bad news for Andrea Levy.
Although I've been really impressed with the way Andrea Levy has been able to defend this, to be fair. So Schirmer, equally I'm impressed with as well, defending the lead of the race. 6.2 seconds, the gap between Schirmer and Koenig. The gap between Andrea Levy and Boris Gideon is slightly less than that, as Boris Gideon tries to get momentum now and get to the inside, but the door is right royally closed by Andrea Levy as we split the screen and go on board the pit wall to check out the reactions on the pit wall as well. There is Henrik Kamstrup. This is what happened. Henrik Kamstrup then running wide, the car getting sideways, he's on the grass. That was a very, very quick save reaction from Henrik Kamstrup, but that's the reason that you picked up on the fact that he had lost significant time.
Yeah, absolutely. That was exactly what happens, and we focus back on our leaders, and there are the two battles, the red cars chasing in both situations. And Andrea Levy has made a little bit of a gap again over Boris Gideon.
It's kind of seesawing though, isn't it? Those gaps both from P1, P2 and also P3, P4. And what have we got? We're down into the 12 minutes remaining plus 1 lap. Now there is Boris's driver coach. You could see on the split screen there again. Like Giacomo Altoe, he will be talking constantly to his driver as taking a look at the inside, Andreas Koenig, just showing his face to Sven Schirmer. And sometimes what happens here, Nico, is you're trying to do it just to break the concentration of the driver in front. But this now looks like more aggression coming from Andreas Koenig.
Yeah, definitely, and Sven Schirmer really, really cool, calm and collected in defense, but you kind of get the feeling that all it needs is one small mistake and Andreas Koenig will be there. He's shown he's got the pace throughout the entire day, both qualifying sessions and the race, and he will have the pole position tomorrow. He didn't score any points in Monza, so we will have the extra incentive of trying to maximize the points all today to close that gap, but knowing Andreas Koenig, I don't think he will go that unnecessary risk.
No, there is his driver coach, Giacomo Altoe, last year's Trofeo Pirelli champion. And the thing is here, great driving between both of these drivers, hugely respectful. And I think you're right, Nico, I don't think he will go the extra mile that some drivers might in trying to get by. However, Sven Schirmer has been in this position now for jolly near 20 minutes, holding on to that P1 position. But he's not made an error. He's not made a mistake. He has not yielded to the pressure that has been on him relentlessly from the start of the race from Andreas Koenig. Really impressive driving.
Absolutely, and remember, they already had 2 qualifying sessions. It's been a long, long day. We're already into almost 9 hours for them. So this is not their usual rhythm. So it's an extra challenge, and to be that calm under these circumstances, really impressive.
In replay, here's Boris Gideon getting by Andrea Levy for P3, a clean and tidy move. That's how the pressure mounts on the driver in front of you. A small mistake from Andrea Levy. Boris Gideon did not need invitation twice. He was through like a viper on his prey.
Absolutely, and there you can see them in the background. I mean, the gap between these two and Boris Gideon is 6.8 seconds, so with 9 minutes and a half remaining plus a lap, unless a safety car or something happens, I don't think that's necessarily going to be possible for Boris Gideon to get on terms with those two, but he's made the overtake and he's in a podium position.
Absolutely, and he will be feeling that he's done the best he can do there. But again, very clean driving as Andreas Koenig has lost the back end of the car. Can he get it turned around quickly enough to hold on to that P2 place? Here comes Boris Gideon to go through. Giacomo Altoe looks on. It was just, I think, that Andreas Koenig carried a little bit too much speed through that final turn. The back end of the car getting loose, of course. Tyre degradation playing a part now. Sven Schirmer will be thinking, my goodness me, because now he's got a margin of like 7 seconds, Nico, for the remaining 8.5 minutes plus 1 lap. What a shame, because the driving between both of those drivers has been so impressive.
Absolutely, and I mean, for Sven Schirmer, this is really rewarding because he held up under pressure, and there's a replay.
I just think it was a little bit too much rotation in.
A little bit on the inside. There are those curbs, and I mean, as we saw on the track walk, there is a lot of grip.
Andrea Gagliardini, you could see there watching what was happening, and Well, all of a sudden, that has changed the face of this race.
Oh, and track limits, quick update. Boris Gideon is up to 3 warnings. A few other drivers as well, including Paolo Scudieri, and Guy Favret has indeed picked up number 8. So another penalty potentially, or actually incoming, as Andrea Levy is now...
Oh, Boris Gideon has gone off track.
Yeah.
Boris Gideon is going sideways. I just picked that up, Nico. He's pointing in the wrong direction now. So that means Andreas Koenig is back up to P2. And there you can see his driver coach. You cannot believe it. And I don't know where that happened. I didn't expect that.
It was in the stadium section.
Look, he was completely on his own, Nico.
Almost looked like he was taking a detour. But yeah, I mean, just the car unsettled out of that turn. And all of a sudden, things happening at the same time. Sven Schirmer unaffected, 6 seconds to the good, 7 minutes plus a lap remaining.
Another time penalty for Guy Favret, which, excuse me, was exactly what you were saying could happen, where the actual time penalty gets increased if further track limit excursions happen, and that's precisely what's happened to Guy Favret. You can see there, he's now up to 15 seconds of time penalties. That's going to drop him to plumb last in the race.
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, it is a slippery slope. Once you get to that phase and the tire degradation sets in, it becomes more and more difficult. So let's see where the other drivers who are at 3 warnings, that is Boris Gideon, you already said. It's also Charles Chan for the time being.
So Guy Favret then with the maximum haul of time at the moment for track limits. I was just looking, Kevin Ketchon, he's on the pit wall directly opposite our commentary studio. He's got his head in his hands because his driver, Boris Gideon, who's in a good podium place, all of a sudden isn't. So the order is Sven Schirmer, who is 5.5 seconds to the good, ahead of Andreas Koenig, who's back where he was in P2, Nico. And Andrea Levy is P3 with Henrik Hamstrup, Paolo Scudieri, Charles Chan, Shintaro Akatsu. Now those drivers have just been quietly going about their business and doing very, very well. So Andreas Koenig to Sven Schirmer, there's a gap of 4.5 seconds. What have we got left in the race? 5.25 minutes plus 1 lap, unless there was a huge error from Sven Schirmer. I think for Koenig to try and eradicate that gap would be a tall order, particularly the pace they're traveling at. For now, of course, he's also got to think about defending from Andrea Levy, who's right behind him, who Andrea Levy's not got. I mean, he's got 2 time penalties. He's got 2 track warnings, not time penalties. So he's not vulnerable at this stage, Nico.
No, I mean, last time around, Andreas Koenig made up 1.6 seconds, but I rather think that was a one-off rather than a tendency, but we will keep an eye on that, of course. I mean, Andreas Koenig is just not within striking distance, or Andrea Levy is not within striking distance to really trouble Andreas Koenig. Last time around, last sector, however, Sven Schirmer was slightly quicker than Andreas Koenig, so
seesawing again.
Stop the press. It's not coming to a head just now. There is the battle, which is now for P5, Paolo Scudieri and Charles Chan and Shintaro Akatsu. We said started P10 up to P7, so potentially still a P5 in play for him.
Potentially so. They get oh so close to the wall, and that is the number 170 car of them all, Andrea Levy, that is running P3. Andreas Koenig then P2. We've got 3.75 minutes plus 1 lap. This Ferrari Challenge Copachel Am race, 1 of 2 this weekend here in Misano. The race being led by Sven Schirmer, whose gap to P2 is now down to 3.4 seconds. However, we only have 3.2 minutes plus 1 lap of the race remaining. And at this late stage of the race, as we run the live speed and gear, and there is Giacomo Altoe, who I have to say, I mean, Andreas is a really, really good driver. He's had a get out of jail card, in my opinion, and holds on to that P2 place. You got to pedal the car though, Nico, and Andreas has done that, and he really took that fight to Sven Schirmer at the beginning of the race. Really good, hard racing between both of them, and for my money, he's beginning to leave Andrea Levy in his wake now. So at the moment, it is the P1, P2, and P3 drivers kind of out on their own, as indeed is Henrik Kamstrup, who's some distance ahead of Paolo Scudieri, as Guy Favre is going for the top spot in terms of time penalties. Nico, he's got 20 seconds.
Yeah, well, as I said, once the tires go off and
it's so
struggle
hard
with control, it's really, really difficult. We've got 3 more laps remaining, including the one that they just started. The gap is pretty much exactly 3 minutes between P1 and P2. I rather think that Sven Schirmer is controlling this, but
yes,
we've seen crazier things, and already this season we've seen crazier things. There is Paolo Scudieri, there is Charles Chan, and there is Shintaro Katsu really, really trying to move further up the order. He has shown the speed. Can he show the overtaking prowess in the late stage of this race?
Well, it's possible. So there is Paolo Scudieri, there is Charles Chan, and Shintaro Akatsu is right behind. It's a 3-way battle going on here for piece 5 potentially, with Paolo Scudieri in that P5. He's the one that looks the least vulnerable, if I'm honest with you. And the reason for that is Charles Chan is having to try and attack and also trying to defend from Shintaro Akatsu at exactly the same time. Oh, the back end of the Shintaro car just stepping out a little bit. Yes, Nico?
The gap in the front is down to 2.1 seconds.
Whoa.
Just to add a little bit of drama. I mean, Sven Schirmer has shown he can defend, and getting close for Andreas Koenig is not a given that he can overtake, but it looks like it's the first and third sector, which are the technical ones, where
yes,
grip and the ability to rotate the car through the tight turns is key. So if that's where Sven Schirmer might be struggling, it could be an interesting last few moments. 2 laps remaining, we're down to 1.4 seconds.
Oh, there you could see Shintaro Akatsu on the entry through turn 16, losing the back end of the car again. This is why he's not really quite able to get on terms with Charles Chan, because the back end of the car is being a bit loose. So, Sven Schirmer, Andreas Koenig, Andrea Levy, they are the top 3. Can Andreas Koenig, it's down to less than a second now between P1 and P2. There you can visibly see it now. They have had to pass the backmarking Louis Peruschia car as well, which will have played into the hands potentially if Sven got held up a little bit and Andreas made the move better and quicker. All of a sudden, it's 9.58 is the gap between P1 and P2. Andrea Levy has got Louis Peruschia ahead. So here comes Andrea Levy to go through, or not.
And this is also still for a podium position with Henrik Kamstrup.
Yeah.
So Louis Peruschia now out of the way, and that battle can continue unabated.
It's down to 7/10 between P1 and P2. Where can Andreas Koenig find 7/10? Sven Schirmer, of course. Tire deg is at its highest now. I think they're about to start the final lap, Nico.
Absolutely, and this is where Andreas Koenig made the mistake earlier, a little bit sideways there, but
controls it.
Controls it. So, last chance, last lap. This race has come to a head like we didn't think it could.
It's going to be a dash for cash now for who is going to take P1. Will it be Sven Schirmer? Will it be Andreas Koenig? What a race we have enjoyed from our Copa-Am drivers. Each and every one of the 15 drivers have given us talking points during the course of the 30 minutes plus 1 lap. And Henrik Kamstrup is fancying a podium out of this as well. So we've got 2 battles going on. The battles are for P1 and for P3. This is going to be all the way to the checkered flag, I feel, as Henrik Kamstrup takes a look at the inside of Andrea Levy, who right royally closes the door. Sven Schirmer adopting exactly the same strategy in keeping that door firmly closed. Which way is this going to go? We want it to go the right way, not the wrong way. But Sven Schirmer, who has defended for lap after lap after lap at the early stages of this race, he's much wider through that turn, but carries more momentum. Andreas Koenig not able to keep with him quite. However, Andreas Koenig with the pedal buried through the floor of that 296 Challenge car right now, and the same can be said of Henrik Kamstrup. This is brilliant racing from the Ferrari Challenge. Sven Schirmer, P1, Andreas Koenig, P2, into the stadium section. Where and can it happen? Sven Schirmer, who has surely done everything that he can do. Giacomo Altoe tries to encourage his driver. So too does Sven Schirmer's driver as they head towards the timing line. Sven Schirmer wins from Andreas Koenig. And then it is Andrea Levy P3, Henrik Kamstrup P4. I'm going for a lie down. Wow.
That was a race and then some, and it's not over, and it's not over. We see an incident on the timing line. Shintaro Akatsu involved in that.
Well, that was Shintaro Akatsu, Paolo Scudieri. Now, Shintaro Akatsu actually had crossed the line, I think, to take P5. This is our winner, our race winner, Sven Schirmer. And I think Paolo Scudieri was passed by Shintaro Akatsu. Then it was, oh, goodness. I mean, talk about drama.
All the way to the timing line and beyond, actually. This is really, really something. And I mean, Sven Schirmer, all credit to our race winner. He kept it together, he defended. Maybe he let off a little bit, was a little bit too conservative for a few laps, so it came close at the end, but he controlled it.
What happened here? So getting out of shape. So that played into the hands of Shintaro. And he just closed the gap a little bit, didn't he?
Well,
made contact with Paolo. But look, it was right on the line, Nico.
Yeah, I think Shintaro Akatsu thought he'd already passed the Scudieri car, but Paolo had obviously buried the paddle onto the metal to be over the line as quickly as possible. And so the two had a little bit of a coming together. I mean, talk about the teams having to do some extra work overnight, because that was strictly unnecessary. But obviously all the drivers out of the car unhurt.
And no, it certainly wasn't malicious, was it? It was every driver fighting for every centimetre that they could get. And I think that was just a racing incident. I'm so impressed with the driving standards from our Copa Shell-Am drivers, Nico. That was brilliant stuff, because they were all defending really hard and attacking really hard as well. And they have delivered a supreme race for us. I really, really enjoyed that. And credit to Sven Schirmer, credit to Andreas Koenig. Andreas pushed it as hard as he could, and that cost him. Now, he was able to get back, but I don't think he was going to make the same mistake again, and he didn't.
No, absolutely. Boris Gideon, the other driver who had a spin at some point, finishes the race in P8 after his dominant performance in Monza, not quite where he left off, but that means everybody will be bunched up, and Sven Schirmer, no mistake. He made it stick, and he finished the race in P1.
It was great. Absolutely brilliant race. Really impressive. Well done to Sven Schirmer, who gives us the big, big thumbs up, and I'm not surprised by that, because there's his driver coach there, Andrea Gagliardini, giving him a thumbs up, and there you can see Giacomo Altoe and Andreas Koenig. Andreas gave it everything he possibly could, but respect to him, and respect also to Sven Schirmer. I think they're two very, very fair drivers, and they were not going to, be at odds as Andrea Levy removes his crash helmet. I mean, it's still warm here, Nico, and you could see that from Andrea Levy, couldn't you? As the crash helmet was removed, and then the fireproof balaclava. Well, first of a triple play of races we've got to bring you, and what a brilliant race it was. Let's get confirmation of the classification. Here it is. Sven Schirmer, P1. Andreas Koenig, P2. Then it was Andrea Levy, Henrik Kamstrup, and Shintaro Akatsu. Then Paolo Scudieri, Charles Chan, and Boris Gideon. Now, the incident involving cars 101 and 115 is going to be investigated after the race. That is Shintaro Akatsu and Paolo Scudieri. Alexei Komarov, P9. Fritz Muller, P10. Then it was Alvaro Ramos, Guy Favre, Pino Frascaro, Germana Toniella, and Louis Peruscua. Oh, absolutely fantastic. This is the car and driver combo that took it to P1. Driving the 175 car with Penske Sportwagen Hamburg, Sven Schirmer. And we'll be hearing from him with Ludovica, who will get hold of him as quickly as as quickly as she can. And I rather think that Sven Schirmer is going to be pretty happy about his performance, Nico.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, and Ludovica is going to be the only one that gets a hold of Sven Schirmer. All the other competitors in class weren't able to quite get
Oh, well done. What a segue that is, nicely. Right, let's hear from Ludovica right now. She's got our race winner, Sven Schirmer.
Sven, congratulations, a very perfect race from pole position to P1. You maintain your position for all the race in the 30 minutes. I wanted to discover more with you your feelings after this race one.
I mean, of course, I'm happy. It was really hard today. There was 2 qualifying sessions. And at the end, at the middle of the race, I really had to manage my tires. So I was lucky that the pressure was not too much from the back. So I managed a little bit more. And luckily, I end up first. So, yeah, I hope this can continue in the future.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I really rather think that you were underplaying how big a part you played in that win. Here come the highlights then of Ferrari Challenge Copa Am race at Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli. As the lights went out, it was a good start from Shintaro Akatsu. Sven Schirmer able to hold on to that P1 position. And he was going to be chased, of course, by Andreas Koenig all the way through. You can see the driver coaches and engineers looking on as Alvaro Ramos was coming under pressure from Germano Toniella. And Germano eventually would find the car pointing in the wrong direction. So Andreas Koenig really pushing our race leader very hard. That was Sven Schirmer, and here was Germano Toniella getting past the car of Louis Peruscua. So the 168 car moving up a further position. All eyes on the pit wall looking at everything that was going on track, and there was plenty going on, including Henrik Kamstrup with a big save, managing to hold on to the car and keep it going in the right direction. Andrea Levy and Boris Gideon were having a big battle here, and Boris Gideon going through on the inside line, and that relegated Andrea Levy. And Andreas Koenig losing the back end of the car and losing that P2 place. The reaction from Giacomo Altoe said it all. Alvaro Ramos also losing out to Fritz Müller as Fritz went through, but it would be Sven Schirmer that would take the win from Andreas Koenig and Andrea Levy. So Sven Schirmer, a winner in Ferrari Challenge Copa Am. We can see Sven Schirmer's crash helmet then. And of course, we have the podium to come for our Copa Am top 3. And that's where we will be heading next. You can hear the dulcet tones of a chap called Michele Mambelli, who orchestrates and presents the podium. And taking P3 is Andrea Levy. There he is on his step, and here comes Andreas Koenig. And to the top step of the podium, Sven Schirmer. National anthem time. So the anthem plays out then for Sven Schirmer. Niklas Nielsen is here, Ferrari factory driver, Le Mans winner, of course. Hypercar driver making the trophy presentation to Andreas, first of all, to Andrea Levy. Now here comes Andreas Koenig's trophy. May I just mention Niklas Nielsen, of course, raced here in Misano in the Ferrari Challenge. Just thought I'd mention it. Look at him now.
Good progress he made.
Look at him now. Sven Schirmer receives his race winner's trophy. Penske Sportwagen Hamburger, as Michele Mambelli said. Team manager receives the team's award as well. Every driver and trophy presenter and team, they'll all get into the photograph. Quite rightly.
few seconds.
That's a nice close-up shot of our top three.
Of the podium. And,
Right, who'll be first with the champagne? I'm not sure who it was. We weren't quite close enough for me to be able to call it. But look at the enjoyment of those drivers. As Sven Schirmer said, it's been a tough day. 2 qualifying sessions and a race for these drivers. Andrea Levy takes P3 on his return to the Ferrari Challenge. Well done. Taking P2 against the odds, it has to be said, the Emil Frey Racing driver Andreas Koenig. And taking P1, a fine win, the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver Sven Schirmer. We'll take a look at the Drivers' Championship standings right now to see who is where with regards to points. Boris Gideon still leading. However, there's a 5-point gap only to Sven Schirmer. Then it's Henrik Hamstrup. Then it's Norikatsu Shibata, Shintaro Akatsu, Guy Favre. Andreas Koenig is coming calling, and Paolo Scudieri. Ahead of Andrea Levy, Alexei Komarov, Charles Chan, Alwa Mer, Germana Toniela, Hassan Tabusi, and Alvaro Ramos. They occupy the positions through to 15. And that's a great shot of the paddock area here at the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli, which has been a brilliant race for our Copa Shell Am drivers. But here in Misano, we've got more racing to come from the Ferrari Challenge. We have got the Copa Shell race, and we've also got a Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am race combined. Lots of entertainment to come from the Ferrari Challenge here in the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. On behalf of Nico Spalak and myself, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back here very soon. Bye-bye for now. Hello everyone, this is Misano, this is the Ferrari Challenge Round 2, and this is our Copa Shell drivers standing by to race here in the evening on the Adriatic coast of Italy. Beautiful place to be. And it is round 2 of our 2025 calendar. And it's very busy down there on the grid, as you can see. So once again, this is where we are. Welcome to Misano. What a circuit, and it is situated right on the Adriatic coast here. It is the second round of our 2025 calendar, which opened up in Monza. Then from here we head off to Hockenheim. Then it's Brno in the Czech Republic ahead of Valencia and Barcelona with a double weekend, or 2 weekends in Spain. Then Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and then the finale Mondiali in Mugello right at the end of October. Great shot then of this circuit, the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. 23 degrees, the track temperature, the air temperature is 18 degrees. About 15 kilometers per hour of wind at the moment is what greets us here. Evening races as we take a look at the 147 car of Zois Skrimpias, who will be going from pole position on this Copa Shell grid. He put a time in which is good enough for P1 on the grid. The Ineco Reporter Corsa Ram driver, who of course was the Copa Shell Am champion in 2024. It is 2025 right now, though, and that means he moves up a category and competes in the Copa Shell category right now. And just ahead of you on the grid, you can see a lot of members of the Scuderia Ferrari Club. And if you'd like to find out more about the Scuderia Ferrari Club, then do check out the website, or indeed the all-new app for the Scuderia Ferrari Club. And you too could be a member of that. Find out more at the website. Scuderia Ferrari Club, then, all around the world. Be part of it. Be part of the family here. Ferrari and the Ferrari Challenge, very much part of it. The Copa Shell Race 1 about to get underway. There is the Richard Mille safety car, which will be leading the cars away on their formation lap. Always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. And a big thank you to the marshals that you could see there with the orange on. Those volunteers without whom we wouldn't be able to enjoy our sport like Christian Kinch does. And Christian Kinch, who of course was a race winner in Monza, is going from P4 on the grid. His driver coach, Daniele Diamato, very politely just moved away from our camera to allow our camera access to that driver. So, Corsa Clienti Ferrari Challenge. There is the Richard Mille safety car, looking resplendent as it always does. And being driven by Antonio Tamburini, I believe, this weekend. Can just see him at the back of the shot. And right, so Monza then was the opening round of Ferrari Challenge for 2025. How did it go for our Copa Shell drivers? Let's find out. Goodly number of people to enjoy the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell action at Monza, the Temple of Speed, as all drivers headed up to the first chicane, which was always going to be something of a pinch point, that's for sure. Eric Chung looking good in the 198 car. One of the most long-serving Ferrari Challenge drivers. Finding the gravel was fine, saving it ever more important. And there you can see congratulations for Fabrizio Fontana from his driver coach, Stefano Guy. That was race 1 done. Then it was the turn of race 2. Again, lots of supporters to enjoy the action. Manuela Gosner and John Dillon looking very lively right at the very start of the race. And overtaking von Skeltermar there. The von Skeltermar car with the shark's teeth across the front. Fabrizio Fontana and Eric Chung regrettably making contact, and that was the 121 car going through on the inside and the red flag, but Christian Kinch would be on the top step of the podium for the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Race 2 victory. Right now, we are in Misano for round 2 And Zoe Scrimpias, who was so dominant in the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell-Am category last year, well, he goes from P1 on the grid. We're looking at the 171 car of Cristiano Marcial. There is Cristiano inside the car. Then he drives for the FBO Motorsports organization. He's wished well and on his way to go in the 171 car, going from P6 on the grid, third row start. There's the front row of the grid. And the second row for me is very, very exciting as well. We're heading towards the John Dillon car. There's John Dillon in 151, and then right alongside him is Christian Kinch. And then behind them, it's the returning Tibor Valint. Good to see Tibor Valint back racing in the Ferrari Challenge. Both Tibor and his young son, Benz, were racing last year. Then alongside Tibor is Cristiano Marcial. We will, of course, be bringing you the grid in full in just a few moments. Everyone from the back to the front of the grid. And the official Ferrari dealer, Greg Paul Nottingham, then supporting John Dillon, who, of course, races for Formula Racing. His lap time of 1:34.269 from qualifying very much earlier on today, giving him that P3 position on the grid. There is Manuela Gosner, who, dare I say it, is a driver that from qualifying 1 is out of position. I say qualifying 1 because we had qualifying 2 during the afternoon. Manuela Gosner going from P9 on the grid. That's not where we would expect to see the fast lady from Ainiko Rapada Corsa Ram at 1:34.959. So there's some potential overtaking to come from Manuela Gosner during the course of this race, which will be 30 minutes plus 1 lap. Okay, going from the P2 position is the Formula Racing driver, that is Fabrizio Fontana.
L'emozione c'è sempre, l'anno scorso naturalmente era tutto nuovo, devo dire che sono stato accolto dal team e da Ferrari in una maniera incredibile, come se fosse una mia seconda famiglia, e passare adesso al secondo anno con una nuova macchina vuol dire riniziare tutto. Diciamo che sono due macchine completamente diverse. La 488 è una macchina un po', forse per me un po' più pesante, anche se mi sono adattato bene, la frenata, il contesto dei cambi di direzione. Questa invece secondo me in maniera più semplice, è più sincera, però è altrettanto difficile raggiungere sicuramente il massimo delle prestazioni. Io cerco di farlo con Stefano, che mi aiuta tantissimo, Stefano Gai, mio coach. Lo faccio passo dopo passo, gara dopo gara, e essere qua a Misano dopo Monza, che ho fatto anche una vittoria nel mio circuito di casa, possiamo considerarlo così, è fantastico. Una grande avventura iniziata proprio l'anno scorso per la prima volta a correre in pista, perché io arrivo dai rally e devo dire che è stato emozionante, completamente diverso dal rally. Poi gara dopo gara i risultati vengono, la voglia è sempre di più di portare a casa una coppa, arrivando fino alla fine del 2024 a essere campione europeo, quindi una gioia veramente incredibile in uno sport che è la mia passione.
There's one word that can be associated always with Ferrari, and that is emotions. And Fabrizio Fontana certainly is a very emotional driver. So this is the Misano World Circuit then, 4.236 kilometers, 16 turns, 6 left, 10 right-handers. About an hour and a half from Bologna, maybe 2.25 hours from Florence or so. And it is a very technical track, very different to the Temple of Speed, which is where we kicked off the season for 2025 just a couple of weeks ago. How will Fabrizio Fontana cope with this and go from P2 to where he would like to be, which is going to be P1? We will see as the cars are released on their formation lap. Zoe Scrimpias going from pole position, Fabrizio Fontana alongside. We will bring you the grid from back to front in just a few moments' time. Welcome to the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell, wherever you join us from. We're delighted you're there. It's Nico and Dave to try and bring you the race action as best we can during the course of the next 30 minutes plus one lap. Here's the grid. Corinna Gosner going from P13 on the grid. From P12, it's von Skelterma. He was on the podium in Monza. Jan Salmon is P11. Then it's Motohiko Isasaki. Welcome back to Europe, Motohiko. Manuela Gosner goes from P9. Thomas Gosner and Oscar Rinčević go from P8 and P7. It's Cristiano Maciel and Tibor Valint on the third row of the grid, P6 and P5. Christian Kinch and John Dillon, both danger men from the second row of the grid, P4 and P3. Fabrizio Fontana goes from P2. Zoe Scrimpius goes from P1. He is the driver of the Inico Reparto Corsa Ram Ferrari 296 Challenge car. And he goes from pole position. Let's hear from him.
Hello again. Misano was super nice. The quality was amazing. I love the track. The car was fantastic, and looking forward for the race. This category is very tough, so I need always to give my 100% and more to try to beat the other guys. But first step, good. So let's go.
It seems extraordinary that it's only his second season of racing, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to imagine that Zoe Scrimpius, Fabrizio Fontana, both effectively new to racing in 2024, at least circuit racing. They are on the front row of the grid and keeping all those drivers who have so much experience in this championship, in this class behind them, remarkable. But they will be effectively having the crosshairs at the rear of their 296 challenges. Everybody else will try and move forward.
Oh, I think you're so right with that analysis. The likes of Christian Kinch and John Dillon and Tibor Valint and Cristiano Maciel. In fact, every driver that is behind the front row of the grid will be trying to go forward. Now, the cars all have to line up side by side in grid formation. They have to cross and go through their grid boxes to make sure the start is official and formal. They've got one more turn to do. The Richard Mille safety car has peeled off into the pit lane. Now it is the responsibility of Zoe Scrimpius and Fabrizio Fontana to control the pace of the rolling start. Every driver looks like they're lined up perfectly to go through their grid boxes. Perhaps one or two move, but maybe not before the lights went green. John Dillon on the inside trying to get ahead of Zoe Scrimpius. They're side by side. So great stuff from John Dillon, who has put himself into the lead of the race. Another couple of drivers have to shortcut the chicane. But John Dillon very lively at the start, and he was very, very determined to get to P1, and he's done it. Zoe Scrimpius is chasing hard. Christian Kinch trying to do the same. So too Manuela Gosner. These Copa Shell drivers in the opening stages of this race mean business. That's for sure. It's Dillon from Scrimpius, from Christian Kinch, from Cristiano Maciel, and Fabrizio Fontana has been right royally mugged at the start of the race, Nico.
Oh, and there is an incident. Manuela Gosner with it coming together, and that was, I think, Rinčević alongside. And yeah, those two cars you can see go in slow. As you said, there was no holding back. Everybody was going 100% right at the start, and John Dillon definitely did it best. Fabrizio Fontana losing out in the early stages.
So John Dillon now will try and extend a gap between himself and Zoe Scrimpius and Christian Kinch. And you're absolutely right how you called it, and it was Manuela Gosner and Oscar Rinčević in strife. And I think Rinčević just catching the back end of the Manuela Gosner car. We've got a yellow flag at turn 8. Now, hopefully the cars are out of danger's way, and that doesn't provoke a safety car, but just as I open my mouth, sure enough, the safety car is called for, Nico. Oh, and a driver overtaking onto the safety car position there is going to be in trouble. I think that was Cristiano Maciel. There is the Manuela Gosner car that is in trouble, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a replay of that scene. Rinčević coming from far behind and just missed his braking point, I believe.
Came from a long way back, Nico, and that was inevitable that there was going to be contact. And unfortunately, Manuela Gosner, whose luck has gone from bad to worse, I have to say, if she had any luck, it would be bad luck at the moment. That just seems the way it is for her. So we're on board the Richard Mille safety car right now. Safety car controlling the race. It was a huge start from John Dillon. Zoe Skrimpias P2, Christian Kinch P3, Cristiano Marchel is P4. Safety car is out with 27.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. Ferrari Challenge, Copa-Shell, Nico. Right, we're going to take a look at a replay of the race start because John was absolutely determined. John Dillon in the 151 car. Let's take a look at it. So as the lights went out, to be fair, perfectly legitimate, I believe. Already spotted that gap and put the car alongside.
Yeah, and also Manuel Agostino initially with a very good
Look
start.
at this.
Yeah,
that's right on board. What a brilliant replay this is. What a fantastic start. There was just a little touch there, but in fairness,
yeah, that was all perfectly a racing incident, that little touch, and John Dillon made no mistake and didn't look back. And just to go back to that safety car, it was called very, very late, and the last drivers were already effectively on the last turn or two. Cristiano Marcel, you called it, he missed it and overtook the others. It's certainly something race control will have a look. I think they will factor in how late the safety car was called. But, you know, Claudio Garavini and his team will have a look and determine what needs to be determined.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I mean, you know, with all due respect to Cristiano Marcelli, he was having to try and thread through a needle, wasn't he? The eye of a needle, because of course all the other cars were slowing down, and yeah, to avoid an incident, you know, he took haste and made haste with his reactions. There is Manuel Agostino, who just walks away from that car and thinks, my goodness me. I mean, actually, the first phase of the start, Manuel Agostino had done a good job. Let's have a look. There is Eric Prinot, former Ferrari Challenge megastar, I'm tempted to say. Has raced for so many years in the Ferrari Challenge, and there he is on the pit wall. Friend to everyone, that has to be said, and a very, very good racing driver as well. And great to see him still involved in the Ferrari Challenge, albeit not behind the wheel of a racing car.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that's sad is it reminds us how old we are, because it reminds us how long we've been associated, which is a great pleasure with this wonderful championship.
Look at that. Jan Sandman, Fon Skeltermar and Corinna Gosner, each making up 4 places. Now, of course, a couple of those are by dint of cars that have gone by the wayside, but nonetheless, good starts from them. Big losers at the start, and I said he'd been mugged at the start. Fabrizio Fontana, Nico, losing 3 places down to P5. We are being told that the safety car will come in at the conclusion of this lap. So good recovery work done, and we'll go back to racing pretty quickly. John Dillon, Zoe Skrimpias, Cristiano Kinch are the top 3. It'll be down to John Dillon to control the pace of the restart from the safety car. And let's see how he does. Done a brilliant job right at the start of the race. Impressive driving indeed. Zoe Skrimpias will be trying to come back, though. Have no fear of that. Incident in turn 1 is under investigation from race control. And no surprise there. So there we can see Thomas Gosner right at the back of the pack. Now the lights have not gone out on the safety car yet, which is the visual warning to the drivers, but they will go out any moment now.
Yeah, just crossing the timing line, and you timed that perfectly. That's the end of the second sector, and that's at the latest point where the lights have to go out, and as if by magic,
I love it when a plan
it.
comes together. Doesn't very often happen, but it did on that occasion.
Now, all the drivers will have their own plans for the restart. John Dillon will have the plan to stay where he is. Everybody else will try to move forward. John Dillon will determine when he will give it a footfall.
What he can't do, once he accelerates, he's got to stay accelerated. Nico, those are the rules of the game when it comes to restarts. He can back them all up, but once he accelerates, he has to stay accelerated. When's he going to go? I think he's gone. Zoe Skrimpias trying to anticipate when John Dillon's going to go. I think he did a pretty good job of anticipating that as well. So Eric Prinot looks on as the cars round the final turn then and cross the start-finish line. Let's go back to racing then. Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell. So it is John Dillon from Zoe Skrimpias, Christian Kinch and Cristiano Marchel, and Zoe Scrimpias is trying to keep on terms with our race-leading John Dillon. Let's go on board our drone to give us a great shot here of all the cars coming through then in this Ferrari Challenge Copa race. 1 of 2 this weekend from the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli. Dillon leading by around about 4/10 over Zoe Scrimpias, but Zoe Scrimpias will not let him get away. John is going to have to defend pretty steadfastly. You can see Zoe Scrimpias getting close there, and the back end of the car looking a bit skittish as he tried to scrub out the speed, and John with a wide line but carries more momentum. He's making Zoe Scrimpias really have to work at this. So Zoe Scrimpias, who won the championship in Copa Am last year, has been elevated to Copa this year, is running P2, and both of them are breaking away from Christian Kinch, who's running P3. Zoe Scrimpias has already had 1 track limit excursion. He's got to be careful, Nico. Just 1 is nothing to worry about at the moment, but it's when it gets to the realms of 2 and 3 that all of a sudden you become vulnerable to a potential time penalty, Nico.
Absolutely. 4 is the magic number, and magic in this case is not a good word, because that's where the first time penalty comes. John Dillon runs a bit wide there, but goes back. You said it, Zoe Scrimpias really had the restart down, didn't manage to overtake, but he really put the pressure on John Dillon. Now,
I love that camera. Just really gives you the sensation of speed of these 296 Challenge cars. As John Dillon then with a 1:37.089 is the fastest lap of the race so far. And Zoe Scrimpias running very wide there. Means that he can carry a lot of speed, but that will be a track limit, I would think. Almost slam dunk, Nico.
yeah, I think that's a fairly easy one.
Now, John has also exceeded track limits in turn 15, race controller saying, so impacting both our P1 driver and P2 driver, so have to bear that in mind. And Christian Kinch also picking up a warning with regards to track limits. So drivers have got to be on their mettle with regards to that, as John sets the fastest lap, a 1:37.089. But Zoe Scrimpias is staying with him here.
Yeah, Fabrizio Fontana is effectively coming up on the rear of this crocodile, the first part and the first 5 drivers. He's now trying to make good on what he lost at the start.
Yeah.
But it's all fine and dandy to be close. Overtaking is a totally different matter, and it's the same for Zoe Scrimpias. I think he did really well on the restart, especially given that he doesn't have all the race experience that a John Dillon has.
No, that's a fair point.
And he did that really strong, and he's now trying to get on terms with John and get back into his lead position.
We're certainly not letting John escape, is he? That's for sure. In fact, the top 2, P1 and P2, breaking away a little bit from Christian Kinch, who in turn, of course, has got the Cristiano Marchel car behind him. So Zoe's now taking a look at the inside of John Dillon. Now, is John going to be able to come through on the switchback? Fabrizio Fontana going through at the same time. Yes, John was able to get the switchback there. I just wondered whether Zois was carrying too much speed. Oh, and that is such a shame. That is such a shame. I'd like to see that again. Zoe Scrimpias has gone through. John Dillon, regrettably. Thibaut Valin, I'm also seeing drop down the... no, Thibaut Valin running P5, but Christian Kinch now. I wonder whether Zoe Scrimpias has picked up... Oh, as Fabrizio Fontana dives to the inside of Christian Kinch. Sorry. Thanks for pointing that out, Nico. The safety car period is under investigation now as well. And there is Christian Kinch on the inside of Fabrizio Fontana, and right behind the both of them. My goodness me, how close is this? So Fabrizio Fontana, Christian Kinch trading places here. Zoe Scrimpias is slowing and has lost a load of places. There you can see the damage on the Zoe Scrimpias car following the contact with John Dillon. So Zoe Scrimpias, I would suggest, has got a puncture. You can see that, and that will be as a result of that contact. And he has to park the car. I'm not altogether sure that we might not see a safety car again. It depends where the John Dillon car is. And there is John Dillon, who will be bitterly disappointed. He's out of the car and he's perfectly all right. You got to feel for him. We didn't see all of it. I'd like to see it again.
Yeah, I'm sure we will find a replay, or our colleagues in the OB van who do a great job will find a replay. It looked like maybe John had taken a little bit of a shortcut with the chicane when we cut to that scene, but it's only an assumption at this stage. And then certainly the two had a coming together, and yeah, it was just an unfortunate spot for both cars, and it affected the integrity of the Pirelli P0s, and we saw what happened after that. And Fabrizio Fontana, who lost everything at the start, finds himself back in the lead and with a huge gap. And here was a replay.
Oh, that was... Yeah, that was the first contact. No, it wasn't. That was the second contact. And that was the initial Zeus going through.
Yeah, and there you can see he really cut the entirety of the chicane there.
Yep.
But then obviously left a lot of space on the inside. And
to allow.
And maybe, well...
Perhaps it was a misunderstanding.
Yeah, maybe Zeus lost a little bit of traction, slid into him. Not sure, didn't quite see it. Anyway, bad luck for both of them. Certainly no retirement needed for either of them, but that's racing sometimes.
It kind of looked, didn't it, as we looked at it, that you're absolutely right, there was a shortcut taken. But it kind of looked like John was, okay, hold my hands up, come and take the place back again, left the racing room, and then contact was made, as you say, whether he just didn't have enough grip on the inside then. Right. You can see a penalty being awarded as well. I keep my eyes on the 171 car of Cristiano Marchel, that is P3 in this race. What have we got? 16 and a quarter minutes remaining plus 1 lap. Nico, what can you tell us? No need, because it's on the screen.
Yeah, it is Christian Kinch who's running in P2. Race control have looked at the start and the first chicane at the start, and have deemed that Christian Kinch has received a time penalty for leaving the track and gaining advantage. The same for Cristiano Marcial, so it's our P2 and P3 driver. So Tibor Valent all of a sudden finds himself in a virtual P2, and Jan Sandman finds himself in a virtual P3.
So, on track, it's Fontana, Kinch and Marchel, but bear in mind the 2 5-second time penalties you can see on the graphics for Christian Kinch and Cristiano Marchel means that Tibor Valent and Jan Sandman will be elevated, and Von Skeltermar is going to be right up there as well, Nico. I don't know what the gap is from Skeltermar to Sandman. It's only 8 tenths. A lot can happen in the 15 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race.
Yeah, and I mean, virtually that means for Richie Fontana 7 seconds
wow.
up the road, almost. No, actually, he's 4 seconds up the road over Tibor Valent, but there are 2 drivers on the track behind him that don't really figure. Now, obviously, the battle between those 2 cars is still very hot because both of them have the same penalty.
Yes, so it nullifies that, you know, they're still fighting for track position effectively.
Yeah, even though it's not for P2 after all is said and done, but with half the race distance remaining, nobody says that they can't eke out a lead big enough. However, to do that, they probably better stop fighting, but tell that to a race driver.
Yeah, it's kind of not going to happen, isn't it? It's kind of not going to work, I think. Yeah.
Good luck.
Right. Von Skeltermar has just been given his final warning with regards to track limits in turn 15. Just saying. He is currently running P6. Tibor Valent has done 3 excursions now on track limits, so he needs to be careful.
Yeah, as if this race needed any
more drama, yeah.
Drama, but I mean, we're happy for drama over the last 14 minutes, but no more retirements, please.
No.
Those were a little bit unfortunate, of course, but it's coming thick and fast. Fabrizio Fontana had all the drama in the beginning. Now he's in a comfortable lead, thank you.
Yeah, he has a comfortable lead because the 2 cars that are right behind him are not figuring. I mean, he's got something like a 4-second lead over this man, Tibor Valent, who is effectively running in P2. So there is Tibor Valent, as I mentioned at the start of our program. He was racing along with his son, Bence Valent, last year. Bence, a talented young driver. Tibor, a long-standing driver in the Ferrari Challenge. A significant age difference between Bence and Tibor, it has to be said, but Tibor has lost none of his racing prowess, that's for sure. 13 minutes plus a lap of the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race 1 of 2. So the overall order on the left-hand side of the screen, and fastest lap coming from Fabrizio Fontana. So Cristiano Marchel and Christian Kinch. I mean, if those two cars were welded together, they could not be closer.
No, not really. And the two Christians, effectively, very different characters, but both of them great races. And there is Cristiano Maciel on the inside. Christian Kinch trying to hold it, but I think Maciel did it really, really nicely there.
He did, and in fairness to Christian Kinch, racing room was left. Now, the incident involving Zoe Skrimpias and John Dillon is going to be investigated after the race. So, Fabrizio Fontana is in a really privileged position here. Now, Christian Marchel has got ahead of Christian Kinch. Now, what he needs to do is build up as big a margin as he possibly can to try and nullify the time penalty he has. Now, he's got 5 seconds time penalty, and if he can get 5 seconds up the road from Christian Kinch, or better still, Tibor Valint, then, you know, that would serve him very well.
Yeah, he's already built more than 5 seconds, or both of them have built more than 5 seconds over von Skeltemer, so the only driver that would board them at this stage is Tibor Valint. And there is von Skeltemer, as well as Corinna Gostner and Thomas Gostner and Motohiko Isozaki, who are also in this race, and Motohiko Isozaki is trying to get on terms with Thomas Gostner. But it's only Tibor Valint who vaults the two of them due to the penalty for the moment, so it means Cristiano Maciel is back in a podium position for now.
Extraordinary, isn't it, how the shape of a race can change so much in the space of but a moment or two. Amazing. So, for the moment, the man that's got pretty little to worry about is our race leader, Fabrizio Fontana.
Yeah, he's effectively 9 seconds up the road after penalties are applied.
Thomas Gostner being chased down by Motohiko Isozaki. Regrettably, we've lost the likes of Zoe Skrimpias, John Dillon, Manuela Gostner, and Oscar Rinčević, and it looks like Jan Sandman has come into the pit lane. Nico, you picked that up.
Yeah, we have no indication. We didn't see him come through underneath our window, but he certainly has come into the pit lane at the conclusion of the previous lap. So has he sustained some damage as
Possibly.
part of any of the skirmishes? We didn't see it, but it is possible.
So there is Thomas Gostner and Motohiko Isozaki. Could just see, I think I've just seen the Jan Sandman car pass me, or pass our broadcast commentary studio, which is high above the pit lane, and certainly there was a car went past us that we could see from our vantage point. Whoa, those fantastic cars going past our flip-flop cams. There's the Motohiko Isozaki car. He's doing a lot of racing, is Motohiko. He was racing just last weekend in Suzuka as the Ferrari Challenge supported the Formula One event there. Now, another car that receives its final track limits warning is the car of Corinna Gostner, who's currently running ahead of her father in P6. There she is. Center screen right now. Final warning, so no penalty at the moment for Corinna Gostner, but she can ill afford to make another mistake and exceed those track limits as Motohiko Isozaki takes a look at the inside of the car of Jan Sandman returning out on track, but whatever issue Jan Sandman has got, it's still there because he's slow.
Yeah, indeed. Cristiano Maciel just put in the fastest lap of the race. Now, I'm not going to build the drama that he gets on terms of Fabrizio Fontana, not with the penalty, but he has gapped Christian Kinch quite significantly, 1.8 seconds in the span of the lap, so he certainly now is in control of that P2 place. He's currently 4.3 seconds to the good of Tibor Valint, so it's only 7/10 away from offsetting the penalty. I think that's going to be his goal.
Yeah, that's what he's planning for, isn't it? And that's what he's playing for. We've got 8.5 minutes remaining here in Misano with our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. 1 of 2 this weekend. And the fastest lap now comes from Cristiano Marchel, Nico. He is on a mission here. And we can hear John Dillon there inside the garage just discussing that incident with Zoe Skrimpias, which is going to be investigated after the race. So there is Tibor Valent. Tibor Valent at the moment remains P2. With von Skeltermar P3, I think. I would need to do some calculations with regards to the times because of the time penalties. No, actually, Cristiano Marchel will still be in a podium position right as of this moment, won't he?
Yes, indeed, and he is chasing the P2 position. He's chasing the virtual Tibor Valent, or the actual Tibor Valent, but
Yes.
virtually. He's currently 4.7 seconds up the road from Tibor Valent, so it's not a lot that he still needs to find.
No. So it's been good driving from Cristiano Marchel, hasn't it? Apart from, obviously, when he exceeded the track limit so many times and picked up a penalty for it. Other than that, you know, his modus operandi, knowing that he's got to nullify this penalty, I mean, he's done really well, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Fabrizio Fontana, who actually doesn't need to push that much, is still setting fastest sectors and fastest laps. So just goes to show how one he is with the car, that
Yeah.
he really has only gotten to know at the beginning of this year, because remember, he was in the 488 last year. So
Yes.
it's really, really remarkable performance from him.
Yeah, so the order on the left-hand side of his screen, as we look at Stefano Gai, who is Fabrizio Fontana's driver coach, the order on the left-hand side of your screen, bear in mind that Cristiano Marchel and Christian Kincher are showing P2 and P3. Actually, with the time penalties involved, it will be Tibor Valent P2, Cristiano Marchel will be P3 as it stands at the moment, we believe. We've got just under 6 minutes plus 1 lap of the race remaining. This is our race leader, Fabrizio Fontana. Fafo, as it says on the side of his car. Let's run the telemetry on the car then. 6th gear, 5th gear right now. Back on the gas again, back on the brake again right now on this very technical part of the Misano circuit. 3rd gear, up to 150 kilometers per hour almost, as we lose the telemetry and go back to the shot of what Fabrizio Fontana is doing out there on track, rounding the final turn and heading towards the timing screen. Timing line, I should say, as opposed to the screen right now, where he breaks the timing beam and starts his 15th lap, I believe, in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Race 1 of the weekend.
Yeah, you could see Corinna Gostner on our timing screen dropped 2 places versus Thomas Gostner and Motohiko Izuzaki. She's now running in P8, and there we pick her up behind Jan Sandman on track, I believe. Obviously not in the rankings because Jan Sandman is a lap down. The gap currently between Cristiano Marchel and Tibor Valent is 4.9 seconds, so we're getting very close to that 5-second mark.
It's remarkable how the story of this race has unfolded, with some drama played into the mix, which will impact and affect how the race will end. There is no question about that. And just when we thought all was lost for this Fabrizio Fontana driver, he has come through and, you know, kept his head cool and has been able to take advantage of what he needed to take advantage of, truthfully. And some brilliant driving from Cristiano Marchel, Nico, the FBO Motorsports driver, who is now, what, 4.9 down?
4.992 seconds, so he 994 actually, so he's about 6 1,000ths away from overtaking Tibor Valent again and reclaiming 2nd place. But with 3 minutes 40 seconds plus a lap, this is potentially going to come down all the way to the end.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What he can't use is a safety car or anything else that punches everybody back up.
That would be a nightmare.
And we have another time penalty.
Oh no!
For this driver, and all that effort goes out by the wayside. 25 seconds, basically a replacement for a drive-through penalty for overtaking under the safety car. You picked it up, you saw it. Race control, definitely a firm stance on this. No, you have to control your car. It doesn't matter when we call the safety car. You have to be able to brake early enough.
Right. So, despite all his valiant efforts, Cristiano Marchel is out of the mix now. As I understand it, Nico, Correct me if I'm wrong, as you so often do, because I so often am. It's Fabrizio Fontana P1. It's Tibor Valint P2. Christian Kinch retains his P2 position.
P3 position, yeah.
So Christian Kinch becomes P3. Tibor Valint will overtake Christian Kinch by dint of the time penalty.
Absolutely. Von Skeltema is 6 seconds behind Tibor Valint, so certainly not able to make up the 5 seconds over Christian Kinch, but certainly Cristiano Maciel, he drops way, way down the order, effectively in the range of Corinna Ghostner now, and that would be P8. I mean, that's a tough one, but rules are rules, and
but it was a slam dunk, Nico.
We've said it before. Race control certainly firm, but consistent.
Absolutely. And he'd, in fairness to Cristiano Marchel, I think he was doing it with a view to avoiding contact, truthfully. But I think, you've got to control the speed of your car, haven't you?
Yeah, but it can be, you so easily overlook a signal when you're in the heat of the battle.
Of course.
It happens, and it happened in that case, and it was to the detriment of Cristiano Maciel. But on the other hand, we're into race 3 of the season. He has certainly shown the pace and really, really held his own and more. So definitely something to take from this race in terms of positives. Talking about things of this race and positives, Fabrizio Fontana, atrocious start, I think is fair to say by his standards.
Yeah.
But he has come back and he made his mark and he has not looked back, and he has put in fast lap after fast lap from there on out.
Oh, he has been. Yeah. And again, I make the point, and I think it's a valid point to make. Okay, yes, it was a torrid start from him, but he kept his cool and he kept his head. How much of that is Fabrizio? How much of that is the Fabrizio-Stefano Guy relationship? Do you know what I mean? Because you've got to be in a position to take advantage of misfortune if it should befall others, and he was there and was able to do that.
Absolutely. And I mean, Stefano Guy...
Baron. Hello, Philip. Of course, he's watching his driver, Tibor Valint, Nico.
Yeah, and Tibor Valint, remember, he's at 3 track limit warnings, so he now has to be cool, calm, and collected. I think the fact that the Cristiano Maciel threat has gone away certainly helps in that regard.
I agree.
And it's the same with Stefano Guy. Having him as an advisor and coach certainly is not a bad thing, but you still have to pedal the car, you have to take it on board, you have to process it, and you have to process it in the heat of the battle.
Those coaches ain't in the cars, are they?
Nope, definitely not. And Fabrizio Fontana certainly is, and he is in the car and on the track with a massive lead as the time hits quadruple zero, so it's the remainder of this lap plus one more.
Plus one more. Well, the Ferrari Challenge Copa race live from Misano has had lots of storylines in its 30 minutes plus one lap. And I have to say, I did not imagine that we would see this guy leading the race after the start that he had. But that just proves the point that with the Ferrari Challenge, the only thing that you can expect is the unexpected, because lots of things can change, and jolly well do. So it is Fabrizio Fontana leading on track with Cristiano Marchel on track in P2, but he's got a huge time penalty as Eric Prinot looks on. And Nico von Skeltema now picks up a time penalty for track limits. So that will change the order once again. We did say, having seen the track limits and the impact and effect that the track limits had during the qualifying session, that we felt track limits would have something to say in the race, and I really rather think they have, as Fabrizio Fontana starts his final lap of this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. There is the Shark's Teeth fronted 296 Challenge car of von Skeltema, who does pick up that time penalty of 5 seconds for track limits.
And that puts Thomas Ghostner ahead of him virtually. The Thomas Ghostner car you could just see in the background, but we go back to our race leader. He held it together, he is leading the race, and barring any more significant drama of the last remainder of this lap, he will take a famous victory and the second here in the 296 Challenge 2025 season.
So Fabrizio Fontana then, when everything seemed to be going wrong right at the start of the race, he just kept his cool and got his head down, and then misfortune that befell other drivers meant that he could take advantage of that and Motor racing can be so beautiful, but can be brutal as well. And sometimes the rub of the green runs your way, sometimes it doesn't. So Fabrizio Fontana, who was last year's 488 Challenge champion, first time into the 296 Challenge at round 1 at Monza, where he did a very good job. He's done a very good job here in Misano as well, a very different circuit. His driver coach, Stefano Guy, will be thrilled to bits. His team, Formula Racing, will be thrilled to bits, as Fabrizio Fontana wins at Misano. Stefano Guy salutes him as he crosses the line. Now, across the line goes Cristiano Marchel on the road, but Christian Kinch crosses the timing line as well. But Tibor Valint, by dint of penalties ahead, takes P2. And then it is Christian Kinch that takes P3, so he takes a podium. Thomas Gosner vaults von Skeltemar because of time penalties. And then it is Motohiko Isasaki with a great result, taking P6. Then we see Cristiano Marchel, and I believe it will be Corinna Gosner next, or maybe Jan Sandman. We'll tell you that when we get to it. For the moment, let's celebrate the victory for Fabrizio Fontana, Nico.
Absolutely, and Christian Kinch almost made up the penalty. It was less than 3/10 at the end. It was a second going into the final lap, so Tibor Valent knew he just had to control it. But Christian Kinch gave it everything on the final lap. Almost got it done and retained P2, but he will be on the podium, and mamma mia, as he said in Monza after winning race 2. I think he'll be jolly happy, all things considered.
Yeah.
A podium finish after a very dramatic race. Eventful is not nearly enough, and here are the results.
Classification confirmed. Fabrizio Fontana P1, Tibor Valint P2. P3 for Christian Kinch. It's Thomas Gosner P4 with von Skeltemar P5. Motohiko Isasaki takes P6. Cristiano Marchel with P7. Corinna Gosner P8. And then as we go to the next page of the classification, P9 for Jan Salmon. Regrettable non-classifications for the likes of John Dillon, Zoe Skrimpias, Oscar Rindjevic, and Manuela Gosner.
Whew, that was one. That was something.
Yeah, that was a race.
Yeah, that was a race, and then some, as Fabrizio Fontana leads the drivers of the Copper Shell class and category into pit lane. It's going to be Parc Fermé underneath the podium for our top 3. Everybody else in the general Parc Fermé area. We have another race of this tomorrow, late morning, so make sure you join us for that as well. We have another race now.
I was going to say, we're not done for today yet, are we?
No, but if you like this show, remember, there's more to come.
Yeah. Oh, goodness me. So, Fabrizio Fontana is congratulated by Stefano Guy and is out of the car. What did I say about emotions, Nico? Emozioni.
Emozioni. And, you know, just going back to the pre-race and the portrait that we saw about his progression in racing.
Yeah.
It was so heartfelt and genuine. There is Philip Barron.
Good job.
Tibor Valent.
Yeah.
There's lots of emotion down there.
Very much so. Very much so. And there is Daniele Diamato. And Christian Kinch obviously feels that he could have done it at the end. Do you know what I mean? He's a bit disappointed. Apologies if you can hear any profanities from the inside of the car. Of course, emotions run high right at the end of the race. And Christian gets his big frame out of the car. And Daniele tries to calm him down by saying, come on, you got a podium out of this. But I think Christian is disappointed, Nico.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually, because obviously, could you argue the penalty? Probably, we didn't quite see it. Yeah, well, what happens in the cockpit is sometimes not transparent to us. What was transparent to us was that Fabrizio Fontana, a dominant win at the end, and we will see him with Ludovica in a few moments, I guess.
You're right. But for now, enjoy the images of Fabrizio Fontana before we hear from him.
Formula Racing engineers, Fabrizio Fontana in the car, and they do it with aplomb. Stefano Guy, the coach, we already see him down in Parc Fermé. Just a few more moments for Ludovica with Fabrizio Fontana, race winner in Monza for his home race, race winner in Misano.
Fafo is back. Congratulations, Fabrizio, for this incredible race. After a chaotic start with a safety car, you made an incredible overcome and you built this race in the best way with your coach Stefano.
It's fantastic. The qualify a little bit problem for me, but with Stefano we find all the peculiarity in this track in the corner, and yes, we all the team, Stefano and the friends, is dedicated to them for build this victory.
Thank you for your time and congratulations.
Thank you too.
See you. Well, more emotions, and here are the highlights from race 1 Coppa Shell in Misano. Preparation on the track. The start was an amazing one from John Dillon, who went on the inside alongside Zoe Scrimpias, and everybody came through the first chicane fairly cleanly. A few drivers were later judged to have cut the corner and therefore gained the advantage, and we can see a little bit there. It was Christian Kinch and Cristiano Maciel. Track space always a question mark, and then the coming together of Rinčević and Manu Gostner meant both of them early out of the race, and a little bit later it was another coming together, and it was John Dillon who had to stop immediately, and Zoe Scrimpius just a few turns later also out of the car. So 4 cars out of the race early on. Cristiano Maciel on the inside of Christian Kinch. Both of them had gotten a 5-second penalty, so that meant they were relegated. But on the track, they were running alongside. Motohiko Izuzaki put the pressure on Thomas Gostner as Corinna Gostner went around and lost a few places. But Fabrizio Fontana built a big lead and held on. Tibor Valent would finish P2 after penalties were applied, and Christian Kinch would be on the podium, but it was Fabrizio Fontana with the race win and the jubilation.
What a race. So we'll be heading up to the podium where we will be seeing the likes of Christian Kinch, P3, Tibor Valent, P2, and Fabrizio Fontana on the top step.
Siamo pronti per questo podio Coppa Shell, grande gara 1 per la Coppa Shell. Chiamiamo I vincitori.
So Michele Mambelli bringing the drivers out for the podium then.
Terzo classificato. Okay. Third on the podium, Christian Kinch.
Here comes Christian Kinch then to take P3 on the podium.
Second on the podium, secondo classificato, Tibor Valent.
P2 for Tibor Valent.
The winner is Fabrizio Fontana.
And here comes Fabrizio Fontana.
Anche Formula Racing, prego sul podio.
National anthem time.
E siamo pronti per l'inno nazionale. Che saluta la vittoria di Fabrizio Fontana.
So the national anthem has played out. And that means it's time for trophy presentations. Once again, Niklas Nielsen, Ferrari factory driver, making the trophy presentations. First of all to the P3 driver, Christian Kinch. Oh, he's chippered up a bit now, Nico.
Yeah, I didn't think you could hold his emotions and positivity down for a long time. Talking about positivity, Niklas Nielsen.
Tibor Valent receives his trophy. And then on the top step, of course, Fabrizio Fontana.
Il trofeo per il team manager Formula Racing.
Formula Racing, of course, Tor Qualman in receipt of his trophy. Of course, Niklas Nielsen and Formula Racing had quite a relationship when Niklas Nielsen was driving in the Ferrari Challenge and winning in the Ferrari Challenge. Nico, of course, he did so with Formula Racing.
Absolutely, on his way to a Ferrari works driver engagement in the hypercar seat.
Absolutely.
And great success.
Incidentally, Tor Qualman was a racing driver as well. He's team boss now at Formula Racing, but he was once a racing driver.
Oh, there you go.
Well, he still is. I mean, you don't not become a racing driver just because you're not necessarily racing. Well, as you say, Christian has chippered up a good bit now. And so he should. I mean, what a start to the season Christian Kinch has had. And there is Ines from the Baron team looking on. Let's take a look at the 3-2-1 cars then. Christian Kinch in unfamiliar colours, which will change ahead of the next event, we are told. Tibor Valentin, very familiar colours for Go Motorsport, and Baron Racing takes P2. And taking the win for Formula Racing, it is Fabrizio Fontana. So as we take a look at the paddock area here in the Misano World Circuit, with the trucks and the really rather lovely Ferrari hospitality unit, which is part of the Corsa Clienti program here at every round of the Ferrari Challenge. Here, the Drivers' Championship then. Fabrizio Fontana leading on 37 points, 10 ahead of Christian Kinch. Then it's Quimpias von Skeltermar, Thomas Gosner, Cristiano Marchel, Ray Acosta, who's racing this weekend in Daytona. Then it is Tibor Valent. Look, on his return, he's already up to P8 in the Drivers' Championship ahead of Eric Chung, John Dillon, James Wyland, Motohiko Isasaki, Michael Martin, Jan Salmon, and Corinna Gosner. They're occupying the next positions with regards to the championship points. And they're ahead of Manuela Gosner, Ruslan Sadriv, Oscar Rincevich, who is there in P18 and P19. Interesting. But there we have it, the Copa Shell Drivers' Championship, the way it looks ahead of Race 2 tomorrow. Qualifying is already done for Race 2 tomorrow, but there is another race to be done here in Misano as night begins to arrive here in the Adriatic coast. So we've seen our Copa Shell Am drivers, we've seen our Copa Shell drivers. Up next, it will be a combination, if you will, of Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers who will be taking to our track here in Misano. 4.2 kilometers as near as makes no difference. So there we have it as our drone then zooms out of the Misano World Circuit. Please make sure you join us for our final race today from the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli cars. And there'll be a big number of cars out there, 22 of them, but from the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race and from our Copa Shell Am races, from Nico and from myself. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now. Nighttime is the right time, especially when it's Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am. We are here in Misano on the Adriatic coast as night begins to fall. The floodlights come on here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli and our Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am cars are ready to take to the track for their 30-minute plus one lap race one of this round two of the weekend. Once again, I bid you welcome to Misano. So this extraordinary track then, which with the floodlights affords us the opportunity to race in the evening, is one that is beheld by all the drivers. It is round two of our 2025 calendar. Having seen round one at Monza, here we are round two before we head off to Hockenheim, then Brno, then Valencia and Barcelona. Then it is Spa-Francorchamps before the finale Mondiale, which this year is being held in Mugello in October. But a lot of racing, and if anything is to go by this weekend, a lot of drama to come before we get to that stage. Track temperature is 20 degrees, air temperature 16 degrees right now. And yeah, all looking good for our Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am races to come. So two separate categories. Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, and here the Pirelli Am drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. And overall, there are some 22 cars out there on track. And yes, as night begins to fall, it's a very busy place as we look at the number 30 driver of Felix Herziger. And Felix then, who did a very good job in qualifying and has put it on P2. His lap timer 1:32.608. 1:32.608 gives him P2 on the grid. That's no bad place to be. It was Luigi Coluccio, young whippersnapper Luigi Coluccio, that put it on pole position, and doubtless we'll be hearing from him in due course. Very busy down there on the grid because the Scuderia Ferrari Club are here in full effect as well. And if you'd like to find out more about how you could be a part of the Scuderia Ferrari Club, then check out all the information on the website, or indeed you can actually download the all-new app, as there you can see Manuela Gosner, who didn't have a brilliant time in her race just a few moments ago. And there, that's how busy it is. And it looks like it's daylight out there, but I promise you it isn't. The floodlights are so good here at the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli. And yeah, this track offers a very different track to that opened the season for 2025 at the Temple of Speed at Monza. There, the Richard Mille safety car is lit up nicely. By lit up, I don't mean on track, going around the track. Its lights are lit up. Shut up, Dave. And it's, I wouldn't give me a job. It will be leading the cars away on their formation lap very shortly. Right, let's take a look at what happened at Monza in Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am. It was a busy place right at the start, and of course the pinch point was always going to be the first chicane, and it's fair to say not every driver made it a very unorthodox move through the chicane. Hendrik Viol falling by the wayside. Marco Zanassi going through, but having to take a shortcut and take avoiding action. So as the checkered flag awaited on race one, it was a success there. Right at the top of the podium for Gilles Renman and Andrew Morrow, taking the Am driver success. And of course, there was another race still to come in Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am in Monza. And once again, a number of drivers having to take the shortcut through the chicane, and a number of drivers picking up penalties for so doing. Hendrik Viol having better luck in race two than he certainly had in race one. It was full of drama, full of action, and full of excitement as well for not only the drivers but the teams as well, as some found the gravel and were able to keep it on the tarmac but bring quite a lot of gravel out with them as well. Looked like Björn Grossman had got it all together on this occasion. Yasin Ferrari, though, crossing the line on track in P1, but it would be Dylan Medler that would take his first win in Europe and Mikael Verhagen that would take victory in the AM drivers in race 2. So those were the highlights of Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM. In Monza, alongside me, delighted to welcome to Le Mans winner, Ferrari factory driver, young chap, good-looking, irritatingly so, Niklas Nielsen, who is here with us for the race as well. Niklas, you've raced here in the dark, the night experience, which we're going to take a look at right now in a minute's time. But meantime, what does it do to you mentally? You've been here, you've raced in the Ferrari Challenge, you've won here. This is a very different circuit to Monza, Niklas.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Thanks for having me once again. Sorry to everyone. I think everything went, or probably is going to go from very good to a bit worse with me on air. But
what rubbish you talk, man.
But yeah, a night race is always interesting, especially around here, because from what I remember when I race here, it's quite dark out there. And on a track like this, we've seen not only in the previous races, but also in quali and free practice, that track limits is a big thing here. So obviously with worse visibility, I think track limits is going to be a key factor here as well.
Thank you, Niklas. We're going to hear more from Niklas during the course of our broadcast. He's very busy because you've seen him on the podium giving out all those trophies and stuff. Man works really hard, you know, and I'm thrilled. I first met Niklas as a young single-seater driver, and now look at him. Now look at him. Hypercar driver, Ferrari factory driver, Le Mans winner. Pretty good at seeing talent when I do, you know. We're 2.5 minutes. That's all right. Don't give me any more money. 2.5 minutes before the race start, and let's take a look at this right now.
Hey, ciao, Niklas.
Björn.
What are you doing here?
I'm the race advisor, so I'm the one who will be following you from the race control.
Oh no.
Yeah. Long
So
time
I
no
have
see.
to be careful with the
No,
track
but
limit.
you will be fine. You know that the white line is the limit, so it will be fine for you. Anyway, mate, the last time we raced each other around this track was in 2018. Do you remember anything from that race?
Yes, for sure. We had some hard fights and we split the podium.
I know that for a fact because we did the race here, of course, but one of the races is in the night and is always pretty dark here because there is no external light. I've done Spa, I've done Le Mans, but I think where you are racing a lot at Nordschleife is a bit of a different story. It's probably more similar to the situation we have out here, right? What is for you racing by night there? What is the biggest challenge you face? Is it the traffic or is it the way you see the corners coming? Because obviously the track is very long there.
I would say in the dry conditions it's okay. For the traffic it's much more easy because the people see when you come with the lights and you can flash.
Is there any big differences from the 488 that we drove here together, or?
It's a big difference to the 488. The horsepower is incredible. The car is super fast. The brake is a big difference. In the end, the car overall is much better than the 488.
And what are your expectations for this weekend?
In the end, I will do it like in Monza. I started not so good after a not so good qualifying, but in the end I had the opportunity to get 2-time first position, and I will try the same here.
Mate, once again, good luck for the race, and just remember that I will be watching you from the race control.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know what's really irritating? Niklas Nielsen is a darn good interviewer and TV presenter as well. I mean, is there no end to the talent of this irritating man? Right, let's take a look at this Misano World Circuit then. 4.236 kilometers, 16 turns, 6 left, 10 right. We're about an hour and a half from Bologna, maybe 2.25 hours from Florence, and it's a very, very different test for our drivers than the temple of speed that is Monza. So the cars are on their way then. Formation lap will bring you the grid in full in just a few moments. That was a really nice piece with you and Björn. You raced together, Niklas. Of course, you know, you've gone on to the heady heights of being a Ferrari factory driver, richly deserved. But in all seriousness, what a, you know, Ferrari challenge was a great place for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's always nice for me coming back here, especially, you know, the interview I did with Björn was it was nice because we had some good fights that year and we had, you know, it's also good memories for me. And, yeah, the night race we did here was actually I think it was the first night race I ever did. So
really?
That was a great experience for me.
Well, there you go. There's Herbert Geis going from P13. From P12 is Hendrik Viola and Francesco Galli. They are all Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers because the white strip across the top of the windscreen. Marco Zanassi, Michael Verhagen, P9 and P10. Then we see our Trofeo Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen. Vincenzo Scarpetta and Quinn Wiedlersbach. Björn Grossman, Max Mugelli are ahead of them, as is Yacine Ferrati and Gilles Renmans. And then Felix Herziger and Luigi Coluccio, who put it on pole position. We're on board with the Richard Mills safety car. More to come from Niklas Nielsen during the course of the race. Right now, let's hear from our pole sitter, Luigi Coluccio.
It was quite good quali. I mean, it's my second pole of the season, so I'm very happy with that. It means that with Rosso Corsa, we're doing a great job. So nothing, we try to bring into the race and very happy to race with them. And we tried to do a better race than Monza. It wasn't really good, but yeah.
Well, as we saw in the highlights, it didn't go all Luigi Coluccio's way in Monza. Will it go all his way this way here at the Misano circuit? Well, you can see really how dark it is right now. The floodlights are lit up. Of course, all the cars have lights as well. And from our point of view in television, picking out the right driver at the right time sometimes is something of a challenge, particularly when you have failing eyesight like me, as we're on board with Gilles Renmans. So we will do our level best to bring you everything we can during the course of this 30-minute plus one-lap race. I remind you, we have Pirelli cars and Pirelli AM cars together in this race. As we saw, Björn Grossman in conversation with Niklas Nielsen just a few moments ago. We're right on board with him right now, driving for the Octane 126 team. Björn, of course, as we heard, has raced at night the Nürburgring. Our German visit this year in the Ferrari Challenge will be to the Hockenheim Ring. And right now, the drivers have one more turn to do before it is the start-finish line. The drivers have to stay in their grid boxes, pass through their grid boxes to make sure the start is legitimate. Everyone is accelerating, and I'm not sure that will be deemed a clean and tidy start, truthfully. I think a number of cars got going before the lights were ready for racing, and they go through the chicane for the first time of asking. This is a pinch point here. Does everyone get through okay? No, they do not. Björn Grossman is right in the middle of that. That's one car that I could pick out, the flashing and daisies of the headlights. So Felix Herziger, I think, got a superb start. Luigi Coluccio did not. Yacine Ferrati, I think, moved up to P2. I think Michael Verhagen might find himself actually in the lead of the Pirelli AM race, and actually P3 overall. And Quinn Wiedlersbach, who'd had a torrid time in qualifying, he kept his head while all about him perhaps were losing theirs. And he's moved up to P3 in Trofeo Pirelli. Meantime, safety car is called for. My goodness me, Niklas. I mean, being successful as a racing driver is difficult to begin with. When you add in the factors of nighttime racing, which of course you have to do on a regular basis as a top endurance racer, I mean, that was just a bit of a struggle of a start, which I think didn't start well, because I don't think I think some cars from mid-pack got going sooner than they should have done.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened with Coluccio, to be honest. I don't know if it was his lights I saw, but I saw some braking lights coming on once the light actually switched off. So I'm not sure it was him, but he seemed to lose quite a lot on the start, which obviously then put him in a bad position. And then I think he was involved in the accident as well, right? Yeah.
There's Gilles Renmans, who is out of the race, and he's looking around him right now. And we go on board with some other drivers here, including Hendrik Viol, who is the Scuderia Prague racing driver. And Hendrik Viol is currently P4 in Trofeo Pirelli AM. We've got a safety car out there right now. We've got Niklas Nielsen with us throughout the course, or for as long in the race as he can before I guess he's off doing podium duties once again. But the order, according to the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, is Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrari, Quinn Wiedlisbach, and Max Mugelli P4. The Pirelli drivers that were involved in that incident at the start were Björn Grossman, Luigi Coluccio, Gilles Renman, and Vincenzo Scarpetta, who have dropped way down the order. So we're on board with the Richard Mille safety car that is leading these cars around right now. Of course, nighttime racing in the Ferrari Challenge is part of the attraction. Right, Niklas, let's take a look at the start of the race. Some weaving going on there, wasn't there? Actually, from that camera angle, I think all drivers did get away when they should have done, Niklas.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I don't know what.
I mean,
yeah,
you know, rather than have a collision, sometimes taking a shortcut is obviously a very wise thing to do, knowing you're going to get penalised for that.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure. I actually think the car that caught was involved in the accident afterwards. Let's see if we have another view on it here.
So we're riding on board here. Luigi Coluccio on our left-hand side. That's where. So Luigi gets a tag. He goes around and then gets collected. A number of drivers make decisive moves to try and avoid the contact, and in so doing, wreck their own chances in the race as well. Let's go on board with Björn Grossman right now. And right, so Luigi Coluccio, he gets a tag in a moment. There it is. And that came from Gilles Renmans. So that touch sent Luigi Coluccio around, then everyone else having to take avoiding action. So, actually, well done to our team in the truck there for giving us so many different replays so we can see it from so many different angles, and that kind of means that we have got the storyline to what happened at the start of the race. So we're behind the safety car now, and a number of disappointed drivers, Niklas, will walk away from the car having not even completed a lap, many of them through no fault of their own. But as I say many times on the air, and you will understand this because you've been both sides of it, motor racing can be beautiful, but by Jiminy, it can be brutal as well, Niklas.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take any side because I know how it is when you put the helmet on sometimes, you know. But yeah, there is no question. It's always too soon to end the race after just a couple of corners, whether it's a sprint race like this or a 24-hour race. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't know how you say in English. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right, friend. Exactly right.
I mean, then for Björn, I mean, we saw that he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time this time, and yeah, it's a pity.
Sometimes that happens. Thanks, Niklas Nielsen. Safety car coming in this lap. So let's go back to racing again. Now, Felix Herziger leading from Yassin Ferrari and Quinn Wiedlisbach and Max Mugelli. Then for our AM drivers, it's Marco Zanassi, Michael Verhagen, Francesco Galli, and they're ahead of Hendrik Viol. So it will be the responsibility of Felix Herziger then. He will control the pace of the rolling start when the Richard Mille safety car peels off into the pit lane. And it'll be down to Yassin Ferrari and Quinn Wiedlisbach to try and anticipate when Felix is going to give it 100% on the loud pedal. And yeah, we'll see how this safety car restart goes. First 6 minutes of this race done and dusted. So Richard Mille safety car heading up towards the turning off into the pit lane, and we get ready to go racing once again then. Safety car intervention due to the first lap incident, and safety car always called for to recover those cars that were stricken around the track. Safety is #1 priority in the Ferrari Challenge and in motor racing generally, of course. Quinn Wiedlisbach really weaving from side to side because actually the tyres had not even generated enough temperature yet. They were still on the first lap, so those tyres are not going to be up to temperature when you're running behind the safety car. So still got to go through this warm-up phase really and try and get, as the temperatures of nighttime drop significantly, then Felix Herziger weaving from side to side and goes now. That was a good anticipation from Yasin Ferrari, who was right with him as the accelerator pedal was buried through the floor of the 296 Challenge car. A brilliant safety car restart from Felix Herziger, which was supremely anticipated by Yasin Ferrari. So the race is on then for P1 in Trofeo Pirelli, and the race will be on for P1 in Pirelli Am as well, as Michael Verhagen doing a good job of keeping with Marco Zanassi too. So let's see how it plays out now. Under the lights, the romance of racing at night is something very special indeed. And it is Felix Herziger leading Yasin Ferrari and Quinn Wittlersbach P3. Max Mugelli running in P4. Then Marco Zanassi, Michael Verhagen, Francesco Galli, the top three in our Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers. Regrettably, we have lost the likes of Björn Grossman, Herbert Geis, Luigi Coluccio, Gil Redmond, and Vincenzo Scarpetta. So as the cars accelerate away then, our P3 driver Quinn Wittlersbach is being left a little bit by Felix Herziger and Yasin Ferrari then. Yasin, another young, talented driver who started his racing career in sim racing and has done quite a lot of racing in quite a young career, and now finds himself in the Ferrari Challenge, driving for the Emil Frey Racing Organisation, as indeed does the driver in P3, which is Quinn Wittlersbach, himself a young driver too, who raced in the 488 Challenge last year. Progress, as you can see, Quinn Wittlersbach up 4 places to P3. So Felix Herziger from Yasin Ferrari and Quinn Wittlersbach. There is Hendrik Viol right in the mix here. He is running P4 in Trofeo Pirelli Am. It's P8 in the race overall, but he's got Francesco Galli well within his sights, and he'll want to try and get past him as quickly as he possibly can. We ride on board with we were on board with our drone shot then, giving us a superb overview. But of course, with the headlights on and the cars screaming around, the Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am race is definitely on now, following the earlier safety car intervention. So, what do we got? 6/10 is all there is between P1 and P2 right now. And you can see Felix is just now beginning to eke out a bit of a gap. Hendrik Viol, and the brake discs really lighting up on these cars, which is adding to the illumination that we can see. Here's the order in Trofeo Pirelli Am: Zanassi, Verhagen, Galli. Marco Zanassi, who I spoke to just around about an hour ago, who's got a lot of guests and family and friends here to enjoy the racing. He will be thrilled by virtue of the fact that for Paniti Motorsport and Motor Service, he is leading the Pirelli Am race ahead of Michael Verhagen and Francesco Galli. That is the Trofeo Pirelli Am. There's Henri Acide. Now, Henri Acide was race winner and championship winner in Copa Shell last year, elevated up to the Pirelli class this year. Was we ride on board once again the Scuderia Prague driver Hendrik Viol, who came so very close in the championship last year, had a great battle with Klaus Branson, but in the end had to be bridesmaid rather than the bride, and comes back for another go this year. Francesco Galli then in the number 31 car. It's almost as like there's LED lights running around the rotors, the brake discs of these cars. When they use the brakes, they just light up terrifically. Looks fantastic. Look at that shot. Awesome stuff. It's one of the things when you see photographs from endurance races at night, those photos are the ones that always make it to publication. Now, the incident involving cars 45, 77, 90 and 26 is going to be investigated after the race, because the race stewarding panel, of course, are here and having to concentrate on everything that's going out on track right now. Niklas, I know you spend time in race control, sometimes as a driver race advisor as well. Do you have a different appreciation now for what those guys and girls have to go through in trying to pick a decision here?
Yeah, I mean...
I'm not trying to get you into trouble. I don't want to do that.
No, but I mean, you know, for us drivers, I think it's quite interesting to see what kind of work they actually do, how many screens they're looking at, and how many things they need to be looking at during the race. Not only talking about track limits, but also contact, like we had in the beginning here. And you know, sometimes it's quite easy for them to make a decision if there is not too much going on, but then other times they need to have a further investigation. Here we saw a lot of things happening into T1. So of course they want to have a good look before they hand out any penalties that might be wrong, you know. So I have a lot of respect for the guys, because I know, I mean, from inside the car it's always easy to see what happened, and of course you're always going to blame the others. I know that for myself as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they do an amazing job, and I can tell you what they're doing is not easy, and I also know that if they can avoid to give out penalties, they will do it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. The one thing I always feel in the Ferrari Challenge, and I've been involved in a lot of racing series over the years, is that the rules are consistently enforced, and consistency is so important. Felix Herziger, then Yassin Ferrari P1 and P2, as we get the split shot of both of the teams that are watching on as well. So the gap is 2 seconds between them. Here is Hendrik Viol, the Scuderia Prague driver, who's running P8 in the race overall, but he's running P4 in the Pirelli AM class, and Francesco Galli, who's set the fastest lap, is right ahead of him, and Hendrik Viol is sticking with him here. Let's run the telemetry on the car as well, so you can see he's in 6th gear, 270 kilometers per hour almost before he has to dive onto the brakes and take as much of the curb as he dare without going into a track limits issue. Incidentally, a number of drivers up to a couple of track limits warnings. Now basically you can stick 3 warnings, but once you've gone over 3, then the likelihood is if you do it again, you're going to get a penalty, and that penalty will be a time penalty. Now there's 2 warnings apiece for Yassin Ferrari and Quinn Wittelsbach. Felix Herziger is keeping a very, very clean sheet in terms of keeping it between the white lines, and credit to the Pirelli AM drivers, not one of the top 4 have exceeded the track limits at all, so fair play to them for the respect they are giving the tarmac and the white lines here on the track as well. So Felix Herziger from Yassin Ferrari, then it is Quinn Wittelsbach, P1, 2, 3. For the AM drivers, it's Marco Zanassi, Michael Verhagen and Francesco Galli. Right, taking a look. Oh, just taking a look at the inside there was Max Mugelli on Quinn Wittelsbach. So Quinn Wittelsbach, very, very young driver. Max Mugelli, not quite so young, but still a very, very good driver. So this is the final podium place that's up for grabs here. And of course, Max Mugelli, hugely experienced, will pile the pressure on the young whippersnapper that is Quinn Wittelsbach and try and provoke a mistake, or try and provoke a further track limit excursion. Because if that ended up giving Quinn Wittelsbach a time penalty, then effectively the job would be done by race control for Max Mugelli. It's all part of the strategy that goes on with racing drivers as well. Of course, the most important thing is what they're doing out there on track, but actually, psychologically, you can do so much as well, and just wonder whether that is the modus operandi of Max Mugelli at the moment. Felix Herziger with 3.231 seconds to the good over Yassin Ferrari, and they have 7 seconds over Quinn Wittelsbach and Max Mugelli. Love that flip-flop camera where you see the cars full chat flat past the wall there. Marco Zanassi leading for Pirelli AM ahead of Michael Verhagen. Francesco Galli and Hendrik Viol has not been able to threaten Francesco Galli yet for that P3 place. 14.5 minutes plus a lap to run. And so we are at about half distance of this Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM race at night here at the Misano World Circuit in the Adriatic coast of Italy. A lovely part of Italy to be. Marco Zanassi then doing a very good job here and just controlling this nicely. Doesn't look under pressure. Michael Verhagen steadfast in that P2. Let's go into the garages as the brake discs light up there. Now, of course, what Marco has got is Max Mugelli and Quinn Wittelsbach right ahead of him that are actually Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Hanno Laskowski has moved up 4 places. Andrew Morrow's moved up 1 place. Andrew Morrow, of course, race winner from the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli at Monza at the opening round. So the gap between Herziger and Yassin Ferrari, it's going in the advantage of Felix Herziger at the moment, who's building up that margin and keeping that margin at a very comfortable 3.5 seconds for the moment. Right now, Quinn Wittelsbach seems to have the measure of Max Mugelli. there again past that, and as the race has quietened down about Nicholas, I want to speak to you about your next race event. Of course, if memory serves me, as I follow you as member number 1 of the Nicholas Nielsen fan club, I think it's Imola next, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Dave.
You and me are going to be in so much trouble. I'm going to be in trouble. You're not.
I'm just laughing, so I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, Imola.
Yeah, exactly.
Is next on the calendar for you. Hypercar, absolutely extraordinary car. Extraordinary time you're having of it, Nicholas, as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the championship this year is also so competitive.
Yes.
So I think it's honestly one of the best championships in the world right now. Of course, everybody wants to be in Formula 1, but if we look outside F1, I think the WEC is an incredible championship, not only in hypercar but also in GTs. I mean, the competition there is incredible. And of course, for us, next week is going to be one of the most important races. I mean, we race at home with Ferrari, and of course we won it. Last year we were close, but of course this year we want to try and see if we can at least bring back the victory with one of our cars for not just for the team but also for the fans.
Well, of course, for everyone here, if we don't get the opportunity to say it again, we wish you the best of luck, of course, for the endurance race at Imola as part of WEC. So good luck to you, Nicholas. Right, Hendrik Viol now is turning up the wick a bit on Francesco Galli. Wow, as they go past now, we've got just under 12 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. So I really rather think that Scuderia Prague have been quite clever here, and they've said to Hendrik Viol, just keep it within your sights, but don't push too hard until you get into the final third of the race. That's when you're going to have to do it. And I think that's also true for, potentially here, the Trofeo Pirelli race as well, let alone the Pirelli AM race, because Max Mugelli is now really beginning to reel in Quinn Wiedlisbach once again. You can see the evolution of the gap between these two, running P3 and P4. Marco Zanassi, who is the leading AM driver, is almost on the back of them as well. And he could play a part in what happens for P3 in Trofeo Pirelli. And he's a Pirelli AM driver just by dint of what he is able to do. And he is pushing them very hard. Max Mugelli, hugely experienced for the CDP Eureka competition team. And I think that Hendrik Viol, has he gone through? I rather think that Hendrik Viol has gone through and picked up that P3 place. So well done to Hendrik Viol, and I'm quite pleased with myself because I thought that was what was happening, and he did do it. So credit to him. I mean, he was very, very close in the championship last year with Klaus Branson. But once again, he was, I had to say, he was second. But he's come back for another shot at this championship this year. Here is Hendrik Viol. And as the cars roll past the Armco barrier, love it. I love these graphics as well. And Hendrik Viol then in car number 92. We ride on board with him right now in replay. This is how he did it. Well, he was gifted a bit of an opportunity. Nicholas, you're a racing driver. When you're gifted an opportunity like that, you've got to be in a position to seize it, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, of course you have to take it. The reason why I was stumbling a bit was because I was about to say it's one of the best things that can happen. But of course, it's always nicer to make a nice overtake. But on the other hand, it's always nice to benefit from it, because it could be also that you are not actually benefiting from it. So he did a very good job on that.
And well done. You can see the delight inside the team garage as well with Scuderia Prague, because Nicholas, and I know it sounds like it's hyperbole, but it isn't. You do win and lose as a team. They share the emotions with you.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the end of the day, I mean, without a team behind, it's difficult for you to even go on track. So of course, like we like to say in Italy, it's a one amica family, you know, like and in the end is what racing is about as well. It's about the team effort, it's about winning and of course losing together. And I have to say also sometimes from losing or from not doing so well, you learn a lot that can help you win in the future as well.
Oh, thank you so much. We're so grateful that you've taken time to be with us here on the air. You're always welcome, and you always give us insights that us as mere broadcasters cannot do. You do it week in, week out as a top racing driver. So it's Felix Herziger from Yasser Ferrari and Quinn Wiedlersbach. They hold on to the P3 places, or top 3 places, I should say, in Trofeo Pirelli, and in Pirelli AMS. It's Marco Zanassi, Michael Verhagen, and this man, driver of the number 92 car, which is just behind this number 33 car, and that is Hendrik Viol. Michael Verhagen, who had a very good time of it in Monza by taking P2 in race 1 and winning race 2. He's in that P2 position at the moment, but he is being chased down by the Scuderia Prague driver Hendrik Viol, who we're riding center screen with right now. 7.5 minutes plus a lap to be done in this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM race 1 of the weekend. You can see that Michael Verhagen is beginning to be reeled in a bit by Hendrik Viol. Super driving from Felix Herziger, who has been just steadfast in building that margin. It's up to very nearly 5 seconds between himself and Yassin Ferrati right now, as they cross the timing line and put another lap in the book. It has been textbook driving from Felix Herziger, really impressive. Interestingly, and perhaps not surprisingly, fastest laps coming from the drivers that are P1 in each of the categories. Felix Herziger for Trofeo Pirelli, and for Pirelli AM drivers, it's Marco Zanassi. So, Anico Ripata Corsa Ram team, Felix Herziger. Resplendent colours which lend themselves to nighttime racing, it must be said. And let's go on board with that Ripata Corsa Ram team, and of course that team headed up by Giorgio Sonagiotto, who knows a thing or two about racing cars and driving them, in fairness. So Felix Herziger with now 5.6 seconds to the good. Marco Zanassi with a reasonable margin over Michael Verhagen, and Max Mugelli has not been able yet to trouble Quinn Wiedlersbach. However, there could be trouble ahead for Michael Verhagen from Hendrik Viol. We ride on board with Hendrik Viol, who is running P3 at the moment. Just feel he's got perhaps the pace on Michael Verhagen. Love the sound of the 296 Challenge car. 3-litre twin-turbo V6 in excess of 700 HP. What a vehicle this is. We're watching the Scuderia Prague garage as well as we split the screen, and Michael Verhagen runs a bit wide. Hendrik Viol gets ever closer, almost touching the back end of the Michael Verhagen car, but Michael did have momentum and was able to carry that momentum, and that meant he could see off the challenge from Hendrik Viol. You can see as the speed increases, the colour's green because they're accelerating when they turn from green to red. It means they're braking. Into turn 1, Hendrik Viol takes, I was going to say he's going to take a look at the inside, but he's not close enough to be able to do so. We're reaching the final 5 minutes of this race, plus 1 lap. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM here live from the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, Marco Zanassi, Michael Verhagen, Hendrik Viol. They are the top 3 in our Pirelli AM drivers that we're watching right now. The top 3 in the Pirelli drivers, Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrari and Quinn Wiedlersbach. So back on board with Hendrik Viol then. With 4.5 minutes to go, I'm going to be brave and say to Niklas Nielsen, because I know he's got to go and get prepared for trophy presentation duties, and I will release him from this broadcast studio, which is, I have not seen that smile so wide. Niklas, as always, we are thrilled that you take time to be with us here. I know me and you go back a long way, but what you bring to the broadcast is very valuable. We love having a superstar with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you for always making me sound much better than what I am talking here. So thank you very much for that.
We'll see you on the podium in just a few moments as Hendrik Viol and Michael Verhagen go head-to-head, but Hendrik Viol has done it. Great driving from Hendrik Viol. P3 for the Scuderia Prague driver, Michael Verhagen. Marco Zanassi. Oh, what a battle this is with 3.5 minutes to run. Hendrik Viol puts it up to P2, having gone by Michael Verhagen. I mean, fair play and credit to Michael Verhagen, who soaked up the pressure for as long as he could. But in the end, the Scuderia Prague driver, Hendrik Viol, goes through and makes it up to P2. Awesome, awesome driving. Felix Herziger with very nearly 7 seconds to the good. Now, is Max Mugelli going to have a last dash towards taking that P3 away from Quinn Wiedlisbach? Credit to Quinn Wiedlisbach, who's also been able to soak up the pressure. And at the moment, I don't think Max Mugelli is close enough to Quinn Wiedlisbach to really give him any trouble at all, as Niklas Nielsen, Ferrari factory driver, leaves us. And we say once again, big thanks for taking time to be with us here on the air everywhere. Felix Herziger, Jarcem Ferrati, Quinn Wiedlisbach, the 1, 2, 3 for Trofeo Pirelli. For Pirelli Am, Marco Zanassi, Hendrik Viol and Michael Verhagen. Now, there's about 3 seconds between P1 and P2 in Trofeo Pirelli Am, but there is only 2 minutes plus 1 lap to be done. I don't think the fairy tale for Marco Zanazzi is necessarily going to be spoiled by Hendrik Viol, although he, of course, will give it everything he possibly can, as to will Max Mugelli in trying to get on terms with Quinn Wiedlisbach. Number 67 is picking up a time penalty. That is Henri Acide for track limits. Track limits penalty also going to NM, the Rosso Corsa racer as well, but that's not bothering or troubling our top 3 at the moment. So with 1.5 minutes plus 1 lap in the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race, it has been a race that was punctuated very early on, which sadly meant we lost a couple of cars or so, but the rest of the action has been brilliant under the lights, and there is just something really special of racing under the lights, that's for sure, as Hanno Laskowski trying to get on terms with Francesco Galli, and of course that would give him P4. Francesco Galli running in P4, Hanno Laskowski running P5. Big wide turn there by Francesco Galli, but of course he'll have momentum. That means that he's able to right royally close the door on Hanno Laskowski, but Hanno is looking very vibrant and very lively here in trying to unseat Francesco Galli from that P4 place. Not behind, far behind them is Andrew Morrow. Andrew Morrow, a Trofeo Pirelli Am driver and race winner at Monza. Oh, and look at this. Which way is he gonna go? Great defensive driving from Francesco Galli. Great attacking driving from Hanno Laskowski round the final turn. Surely he's going to have a go into turn number 1 as we pick them up as they cross the start-finish line. Got to dive to the inside. King of the late breakers going to make the difference here. Well, Francesco Galli just positioned the car absolutely perfectly. 10 seconds plus 1 lap. So basically what that means is the remainder of this lap plus 1 more in Ferrari Challengers. We welcome back from the dressing room Nico Spalek, who has just as much as me enjoyed having Niklas Nielsen on the air with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just unique insights and an amazing race in the lights, in the dark, and as you said, Hanno Laskowski didn't do a lot of laps in qualifying, so he is relatively fresh tires, and that allows him to attack towards the end.
But the thing is, he's picked up a time penalty, so Francesco Galli, you just need to move to the side and let him go by, because there's no point fighting. It's not going to make any difference.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to say that, or for you to say that, because of course we can see it from up here very easily.
But he will tell him, of course.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Equally, Hanno Laskowski will also have been informed. But as you say, a collision would help nobody.
You're right. So, final lap of this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race. We're live from the Misano World Circuit. And it has been a compelling race, that's for sure. So this little battle, which is going on for P4 and 5, continues. Meantime, Felix Herziger, 8.5 seconds to the good in the Trofeo Pirelli race for the Ineco Reporter Corsa Ram team. Marco Zanassi with a huge contingent of guests and family and friends here in Misano, P1 in Pirelli Am, with Hendrik Viol setting the fastest lap in Pirelli Am, Felix Herziger setting the fastest lap in Pirelli. But the gap between P1 and P2 in the AMs was just always going to be too great to overcome. Now, Hanno Laskowski is not giving up on this and trying to buy into this as well. As the big winner here could be Andrew Morrow. If these two come to blows, as they might, Andrew Morrow might pick it up. Meantime, Felix Herziger, who has done nothing wrong at all. It's been a textbook race from Felix Herziger, who wins for Trofeo Pirelli. Yasin Ferrati just did not have the legs to be able to stay with him, but he does take P2. And for Quinn Wiedlisbach, who's not even into the final turn yet, here he comes right now. He's been chased the entire race by Max Mugelli, but Quinn Wiedlisbach takes a podium, P3.
And it's an all-Swiss podium, so it's going to be a challenge for the Misano circuit. Will they have 3 Swiss flags on hand?
Wow, that's a good point. For the AM drivers, Marco Zanassi wins ahead of Hendrik Viol and Michael Verhagen. Francesco Galli, Andrew Morrow, Hanno Laskowski dropping down the order because of that time penalty. Wow, in the end, under the lights, what a race here at Misano, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pity that we lost so many cars at the very beginning. Just happens, just a racing incident, and one thing leading to another. As you say, Felix Herziger, no mistake, huge gap. Yasin Ferrati over Quinn Wiedlisbach, an even bigger gap. But also Quinn Wiedlisbach, first podium here in the 296 in the 2025 season. And yeah, all 3 Swiss drivers on the podium. That is quite remarkable. It might just be a first in the history of the Ferrari Challenge. That's a
that's a
research. That's a research that someone has to do, not us on the air.
Not you or me.
Not over the next 12 minutes or so. But I mean, quite a remarkable. And you said it, Marco Zanassi. He has his fans. He has this big fan club, a great presence here in the paddock, and they will have reasons to celebrate. The night has already started, as we can see from the pictures. It's going to be a long one. Actually, it's not going to be a very long one because Trofeo Pirelli is back on the track fairly early tomorrow.
Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3. And if you occupy those steps on the podium, of course you're going to be cheerful. Cars making their way into the pit lane right now. You're absolutely right. You can't be doing too much partying tonight because we're back on duty again. Pretty early tomorrow morning. You're going to tell me what my wake-up call needs to be, and I'm not going to be very happy with you. But that will come a little bit later. We're not going to share that with you on the air, but that's a private argument we will be having between myself and my producer as the cars make their way into the pit lane.
It's going to be too early o'clock for everybody. It's never too early and never too late to celebrate a victory. Felix Herziger is doing the very best to flash his headlights as the other cars pull up alongside. It's going to be 6 cars underneath the podium, 3 for Pirelli, 3 for Pirelli Am. I guess one of the most cheerful will be Felix Herziger.
Ought to be. He's done a brilliant job. Look at that, these celebrations. Now, I met his brother earlier on today, and we were just talking, and he said, I've got so much to tell you about Felix. And we didn't get a chance. There's goodness, Yasin Ferrati being congratulated by Giacomo Altoe. Quinn Wiedlisbach. Marco Zanassi. Oh, the joy down there. Marco Zanassi winner for Trofeo Pirelli Am. Wow. What have we got? Local time here. It's about 20 minutes to 9 p.m.
About breakfast time.
Right, it's busy down there Of course, we'll be getting reactions from those drivers as quickly as we can. There's Marco Zanassi. Lots of cheers and applause down there as Marco Zanassi poses for photographs, Nico. As is his wont, he's won the Pirelli Am race. Good and proper, it has to be said. We'll be bringing you the confirmed classification in just a moment. Less than just a moment. Here it is. Felix Herziger from Yasser Ferrari and Quinn Wiedlisbach, ahead of Max Mugelli. For our AM drivers, Marco Zanassi, Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen, and Francesco Galli. They are the top 8 overall. Then it was Andrew Morrow, Hanno Laskowski, Henri Yassid, Otto Blank, James Owen, MNM, Nobuhiro Imada, who just last weekend was racing in Japan, ahead of Gianmarco Marzioletti, Armin Arafpor. NC's non-classifications for Björn Grossman, Luigi Coluccio, Gilles Remman, Vincenzo Scarpetta, and Herbert Guys, which is a great shame. But another race to be done in, actually, but a few hours' time. So, the number 30 driver, Felix Herziger, driving for the Nico Reparto Corsa Ram team, has done what he needed to do in that very brightly coloured Ferrari 296 Challenge car. He has driven it to great effect, and not only to great effect, he has driven it to P1 in the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race. He is going to be one to watch this season. And Ludovica has caught up with him right now. Let's hear from our race winner.
Felix, congratulations from P2 to P1 in this incredible condition during a night race. Can you tell us more about your feeling to be here and how you built after the qualifying session this race?
For me, I don't know what to say. It's been very difficult during the night because you have to reassess all of the positions and the points, and it's easier for the guy behind. So I needed to adapt quickly, but that went really well. After qualifying, it was we knew it was a race between Coluccio and me, and I had a great start, which was amazing. And so from there on, it was just head down and go as fast as you can. And the car was perfect, like every lap it was perfect. So huge thanks to the team, to my sponsor Neupack, to everybody watching at home, also you, Diana. And yes, it's incredible.
Thank you.
There's a bit of emotion showing there, and rightly so. Well done. Many congratulations to Felix Herziger. We, of course, will also be hearing from our Trofeo Pirelli Am victory driver, and that is Marco Zanassi, who, as I mentioned earlier on, got a whole bunch of guests and friends and family here as well. So it must make it even more special when you have all that support standing by, and they are all here to celebrate the victory of Marco Zanassi.
Marco, congratulations. First of all, tonight was a very good Italy in Misano with your race. Can you tell us more about your feeling in this condition and how do you build your race?
Yeah, the feeling, of course, I mean, this is the very first race that we're doing in the night, so of course it's a little bit different because you're losing the braking point usually, no? But yeah, the race was good. I mean, we was comfortable. I mean, after the start, because the start, as you know, I mean, it's quite difficult in every races. And I think we could control a little bit the race. So at the end, we had fun, and it was anyway a tough race because it's not easy.
Thank you.
Thank you to you. Ciao.
Well done, Marco. Let's take a look at the highlights of Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am under the lights. As we go nighttime racing and heading into turn number 1 with 22 cars all champing at the bit to get going here. Unfortunately, Luigi Coluccio would receive just a little bit of a tap, and a number of other drivers in avoidance trying to make haste their escape, being caught out, unfortunately. That would mean that the safety car would have to be brought out, and that was where Luigi Coluccio got caught out, and Unfortunately, that meant that a number of drivers missing out on that race. But when we got going once again, it would prove to be something of a humdinger under the lights as the Trofeo Pirelli drivers and Pirelli Am drivers were going about their business and pushing as hard as they dared. One or two would find themselves pointing in the wrong direction, but drivers like Hendrik Viol would take every opportunity they could to move up a further place. At the front, Felix Herziger was doing a brilliant job. Scuderia Prague were really pleased with their driver, Hendrik Viol, who was doing everything he could to push into P3, first of all, and then into P2 in the Trofeo Pirelli Am race. For the Pirelli drivers, it was Felix Herziger and Jacim Ferrati and Quinn Wiedlisbach, the 1, 2, 3, but all the action was going on in the AMs, with Hendrik Viol not satisfied with P3. He was going for P2, and by Jiminy, he did that as well and made it up into P2. And there was still lots going on, but in the end, it would be Felix Herziger that would win for Trofeo Pirelli, and for Trofeo Pirelli Am, it would be Marco Zanassi. Absolutely fantastic racing for Marco Zanassi, as he was congratulated all round. Great racing from Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and from Trofeo Pirelli Am. The highlights then. Race statistics, there are a few. There you can see top speeds came from Max Mugelli and from Marco Zanassi. Fastest laps from Felix Herziger and Hendrik Viol. So the winner of the Pirelli race, fastest lap in Pirelli, and Pirelli Am, second place driver, was fastest lap. We're going to be heading up to the podium next. Michele Mambelli bringing the drivers out. Of course, two podiums to come. First of all, it will be the Pirelli podium. Here comes Quinn Wiedlisbach, P3. Here comes Jacim Ferrati, then P2. And then the victory goes the way of Felix Herziger. And Giorgio Sanaggiotto will be here as representative of the team, and the national anthem will play out. Whether they have the flags or not, they don't have the long version of the national anthem, that's for sure. The Swiss national anthem playing out, and Mr. Antonello Caletta making trophy presentation duties. He, of course, global head of endurance and Corsa Clienti for Ferrari. There is Antonello Caletta then making the trophy presentation to Jacim Ferrati, having given the third place trophy already to Quinn Wiedlisbach. And then on the top step of the podium, well done to Felix Herziger. Many, many congratulations. Giorgio Sanaggiotto will receive a trophy, which is not the first time that's happened to him, I can assure you. But as team boss, he receives the trophy for his team. And of course, double bubble, because the Pirelli Motorsport Trophy is awarded as well by Matta Colombi. Everyone together for the podium and photographs. Rise up your trophies. Big thumbs up from Antonello and Giorgio. And it's going to be Quinn Wiedlisbach who's going to win the champagne race. Once again, I'm wrong. Nico, I'm wrong.
He had it, but he had to make it extra spectacular, and that cost him a few milliseconds there.
Just his breaking point. Emil Fry racing driver P3, Quinn Wiedlisbach. P2 for Emil Fry Racing, and that's Jacim Ferrati. And P1 for the Nico Ripato Corsa Ram driver Felix Herziger. Another podium to do, but before we get to that, the Trofeo Pirelli Drivers' Championship. Yassin Ferrati ahead of Gilles Remmans and Björn Grossman. Then it's Vincenzo Scarpetta, Felix Herziger up to P5 in the Drivers' Championship ahead of Quinn Withersbach and Dylan Medler, who's missing this weekend because he's racing in Daytona. Then it was Max Mugelli and Luigi Coluccio. Trofeo Pirelli Am podium to come, where we will be seeing in reverse order Michael Verhagen, Hendrik Viol and Marco Zanassi.
E siamo al secondo gradino del podio con Hendrik Viol.
Michael Verhagen, P2, P1, P3, completes the podium collection.
Been on every step. Well, listen to that. The support from Marco Zanassi is there. And of course, the Motor Service Panetti Motorsport team represented as well.
Il nostro grandissimo applauso per questo podio dei vincitori. I trofei sono sempre presentati da Antonello Coletta, Global Head of Endurance.
Once again, Global Head of Endurance and Corsa Clienti, Mr. Antonello Coletta, making the trophy presentations to Michael Verhagen, first of all, for Ferrari Warsaw, who, as Nico so rightly points out, has been on every step of the podium. Well done, Hendrik Viol. Great driving from Hendrik for Scuderia Prague Racing. And then for Motor Service and Panetti Motorsport, Marco Zanassi. Congratulations, friend.
Per il team manager, trofeo team per Motor Service Pinetti Motorsport.
And there the team's trophy is awarded as well.
Consegnato da Mattia Colombi, Pirelli Motorsport.
And the Pirelli trophy is awarded as well. Everyone together for the photographs, which is a critical part here because the focus of the world's media is on the Ferrari Challenge here at Misano, racing at night. There's lots of happy faces down there just beneath the podium. Zanassi will win the champagne race.
Allo show finale con la battaglia dello champagne.
Well, I'll go to the foot of our stairs. I've been wrong on every champagne race, Nico.
I think there was a photo finish. So
you're being too kind to me. Top three for Ferrari Warsaw, Michael Verhagen, P3. For Scuderia Prague Racing, well done, Hendrik Viol. And for Motor Service Pinetti Motorsport, great victory for Marco Zanassi. So there we have it then. Be very interesting to look at the Drivers' Championship points, where Michael Verhagen leads from Marco Zanassi P2 and Andrew Morrow is P3 on the same number of points. Then it is Hendrik Viol, Francesco Galli and Hanno Laskowski, Herbert Geis, Henri Acide. They are the top 8 ahead of NM, Danilo Del Fabro, Rafael Duran, Otto Blank. Then it's Gianmarco Marcialetti, Armin Arapor and James Owen. Welcome return to the Ferrari Challenge. From Nico Spalek, from Niklas Nielsen, and from myself, thank you so much for watching that Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race. Big thank you to my colleagues in the truck as well. And we'll see you tomorrow for more Ferrari Challenge racing from the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli. Bye-bye for now.